Welcome back for another day of Blueprints lore, continuing my 100% completion of the game with reading everything, doing everything, etc. Just going through the entire game, doing all the possible things. Got a decent start last time. Obviously, slow because reading through room descriptions and talking about lore as you go through every new room, you're going through a lot of new rooms in the early days of the game because that's all there is, new rooms. Um, but I think we got a decent start. Only a couple things that I just flat out forgot to mention, like while I was going through a room. A couple of blueprint memos I forgot to read in the moment, that sort of thing. So I don't feel too bad about that. Got a decent start at least. So let's start the usual way. Head to the outer room, get us something new to work with. Let's see here. We did hovel, I believe. That was our outer room, right? Yeah, we did hovel and tool shed. So much as I would love to do tomb, I would rather do shelter today and get that just sort of set up and done with for now. And I want to do tomb at some other time, preferably when I maybe have access to something that lights on fire. Just sort of to minimize. Well, no, tomb has an upgrade disc in it. That might be worthwhile. Yeah, early upgrade discs. The longer they have them, the better. So, in we go to the tomb. Of the latest upgrade, which I clearly don't have, an icon appears and you click and you go automatically up and down spiral staircases to give people who have motion issues a break. Just saw it tonight in practice on the Kraken Encrypted guys. One of them, Simon, I think is his name. Oddly enough, does not like up and down motion. It gives him, just messes with his head and his vision. And so he does not like going up and down the stairs. Any sort of more than a step or two in the game of a changing elevation on him, doesn't like it. And, hey. So, the room description. And this is where things start getting a little interesting. The tomb. This Sinclair family crypt is as gloomy as it is immense. The true Sinclair legacy lies here, resting underneath the stones, a parade of distant relations and forgotten ancestors. And the parade of distant relations and forgotten ancestors is kind of what I find interesting, because number one, this is a black print, so it is all but saying you have distant relations and ancestors buried here in a black print of Orindia, of the Orinda Aries, and this is on the royal grounds, etc. So this is almost flat out saying Simon is related to royalty in some way or another. The Sinclair family is. It's not overt, it's not specifically saying it, but it's not a very hard line to draw between the two. So before we go and open things up here, I don't remember where, there it is, yeah. Herbert's tomb, of course. Open only in the event of my death. Simon, so here's where it all ends, at least for me. And of all the picturesque places in this grand estate, I chose this dreary, dank dungeon to be laid to rest. And that same dim, somber fate fell upon my father and his father before him, who loved the outdoors even more than myself. They say there is no stronger bond of servitude than tradition, and family tradition, thrice as strong. These are chains that seldom bend and never break. And I do wonder what plans and prospects of yours will be sacrificed upon the family font of convention. What biography of your own will you forsake to add another page to your father's memories, or your mother's, or mine? In our youth, we are gifted with dreams and ambitions. At our death, we are left with realities and regrets.
I think there is no greater sin than to perpetuate tradition that stagnates growth, that strangles purpose, that suffocates dreams. What point is there to live another's life at the sake of our own? Oh, how I wish to have been buried underneath the great oak, overlooking the plains, the wondrous woods and the worldly mountains. At the wild holly that surrounds the trunk, a perpetual token of sympathy laid across my grave. What dreadful tradition is it that dumped me in this sunless hollow? And if, by morbid example, this dark crypt makes any impression whatsoever on you, if reading this letter within these damp halls plants in you a seed of hope, if these words might grant you strength to bend, if not break these chains, then I would cherish this tomb more than oak and sycamore and spruce, more than the wondrous woods and worldly mountains. This cold stone room would become the most cherished place in all of our domain. I would have you raise a shrine upon this spot to commemorate the moment of your liberty, to treat this sepulchre as hallowed ground, to realize that grand gestures can be as effective as they are theatric, and to, in return, as recompense for the freedom thus granted you, commit yourself to be buried here within this mausoleum of dreams, and when the day comes to write your own letter, and to inspire the next generation that follows in our footsteps, as is tradition, Herbert S. Sinclair.
Now, a couple of things jump out, and I want to double check one thing really fast. Because, yeah. He talks about cherish this tomb more than oak, sycamore, and spruce. And the only other place those are really mentioned that I can remember is in the History of Veranda, 6th era, current era. It mentions the spruce and birch, not sycamore. And just the times the trees are called out in this game is fairly rare, so it's worth mentioning whatever they are. Oak trees, not apparently supposedly that common. And if you look around the grounds, it's mostly things that, to my unexpert eye, look more like pine trees with that conifer shape. I don't know if those are actually sycamore or spruce. I could not tell you what a sycamore or spruce tree looked like to save my life. But I know oak trees fairly well. I live in Texas, and there's the one big oak tree that is on the west side of the manor, at the middle of the drive in some cases, and I can't think of any other ones offhand. There's our oak tree. Okay, so there's another oak tree over there. So, okay, there are other oak trees around, but yeah, these pine ones are by far the dominant tree in the area. And there's no holly around this one, so this is not the one Herbert is talking about in his tomb letter. And then, of course, the white trees, which I want to say the white trees are birch. Again, good. I'm not a tree guy. I don't know. I know redwoods. I know oaks. I know cedar, for the love of God. But beyond that, I start losing track really fast. And I know Christmas trees. So the other thing really is that he's talking about, him and his father before him. So this is, the ancestors that are mentioned, but you start running out of ancestors really fast, and as far as the current era goes, because obviously Herbert's father was Thomas Sinclair, and he was there at the founding of the manor. So you're at Herbert's father. His father before him, how the hell was he buried here? What was his father's, Herbert's grandfather, who I want to say is probably the one that's in the statues? Who is that? Not Nicholas, not Tomas, Epson, Gates, Yenna, Edwin. Is probably Edwin Sinclair. We don't know that for certain. There's nothing that ever says it. We just know there is an Edwin Sinclair. He was a baron, and he's clearly an older generation than Tomas, because we know all the barons from Tomas to Herbert, skipping a generation down to us now. So we presume Edwin is at least Tomas's father, possibly even older than that, who knows. But, you know, he's talking about generations of the family being buried here, and it wasn't that long ago that this was absolutely, definitely royal grounds. So any further back than that, and you're already in Fourth Era, which this, well, you know, Mount Holly was still the capital, and was still where the castle was located, up through the end of the Fourth Era. Or, excuse me, through Desolate the Third, before he moved it. It was still in effect. So, up that far back, this place was still in use as the castle and the royal family, etc. So, again, just the fact that we're already talking generations back, you run into royal grounds really fast. The other thing that's down here currently that you only know about it if you pay attention in the Lady Epson's diary, and you come here after sleeping in the bunk room, that there is a flower gem laid here, and she had said that it was found on her husband's tomb. So this specifically is Simon Sinclair's tomb right here. It's unmarked. There's no other way you would know that, but this is where Simon's buried. Kind of a lonely spot. It's not too far removed from his wife, because Clara's is through here and then down that way, so they're adjacent at least. But of course, coming down here, let's see, walk in straight ahead. I have to reorient myself. Okay, here we go. There's the entranceway. I do that because I don't necessarily remember, like, off the top of my head of which statue is which. I just know the order because I've done this so many times from muscle memory. There we go. Rena, Joya, and always turn left. Turn left. Gauja. This is, you can make turn right here if you want. Thea, turn left. Mila, turn left. Lydia, turn left. And then, of course, Orindia. The note, and this is Herbert's handwriting, so each of our journeys come to a conclusion here in the tomb. This floor plan is the definitive dead end. Or is it? So, just in case you needed the hint that there is more to this place than this, my one beef with this room has nothing to do with the game itself. If you've never heard of or played Blueprintal, it is, hold on, I'm getting rid of the friggin' bot message. Which one is showing? That one. Friggin' Twitch bots. Blueprintal, it's basically Wordle for blueprints using rooms and their features, so number of gems, number of doorways, rarity, that sort of thing, as the things to guess by. And all of the outer rooms are dead ends. This place is listed as... We were just there, come on. Oh, we're downstairs, sorry. This is a dead end. Not a dead end. This is the dead end. But Blueprintal lists this as a 2-entrance room, which is BS because there's only one entrance into this place. There's 2 doorways once you open this up. Don't get me wrong. This is a doorway, but the wording of Blueprintal says entrance, and this is not an entrance because you can only exit through here. You can't enter if it's not already here and open. Anyway, mini rant over. Our good buddy Drax is here, and the one piece of the map that doesn't contain any of the 8th angel points to our dreams, but this is where the 8th angel indeed points to your dreams. And if you didn't notice, not everyone does, the scythe here is pointing exactly to where the sanctum key is, right behind that giant rock in the middle of the reservoir. The only thing that I find strange about that is that the handwriting of the 8th angel points to our dreams is Herbert's handwriting. I'm not entirely certain what pointing to a sanctum key would have anything to do with Herbert writing about his dreams, or our dreams in this case. Except, making Simon understand things. It's like there's not... Getting a sanctum key does really absolutely nothing except getting you access to the sanctum doors, which at most gives you the understanding of the postcards, which lets you open up the safe in 46, which gives you the will and the deed to the house, I guess. But like pointing to one key seems it's a bit of a stretch to me, at least. So I've seen people point out, and I have not verified this, but I've seen people say that if you actually follow where that's actually pointing down to where the safe house is. And they're not entirely wrong. I just don't think it's pointing as directly as they seem to be making it out to be. And if we were on my Steam account, I could go into free roam and actually find out for sure, or at least get a much clearer idea. But anyway, the torch chamber here, I am slightly annoyed by, honestly, because I don't know why it's here. It has very little practical use. There's almost never a need to get down to the precipice from here, because by the time you figure this thing out, I don't think I've ever seen anybody who didn't already have the blue flames lit and the elevator active before they figured out, oh, I can make fire and light this type of candle on fire, and I got the tomb to do this. Like, it's just a really bizarre way of trying to access the precipice, and I've never seen, except some very niche cases for like dare mode where you're not allowed to use elevators, or I think once in bingo I've seen someone use this opening to accomplish anything. So, and I don't think we did anything with the pump here. No, okay, I didn't think so. But we got an upgrade disc. Shouldn't be too hard to use it today. The other thing, as long as we're doing this, we're going to go open up the spot behind Draxus, which means we should probably raise him up.
I'm pretty sure I remember the natural order off the top of my head, but I'm going to look at my notes just in case to make sure. And we're just going to go reverse this. Turn right, turn right, turn right. Okay, I'll grab my note here. I keep this on a shortcut. Natural order.
Okay, Veranda is first, obviously. Then Lydia. Then Rena. And I've seen people questioning why is this the natural order? What could it possibly mean? I have not seen a coherent theory behind it proposed. Not even in the Sanctum chat on Discord. Then Mila and the Draxus. There's someone, I think I saw someone talking about it, but I don't know that they actually came to anything, not even a theory, much less anything conclusive. I think they were trying to also tie angels to realms, and if there was an order of the realms that could make sense. But again, I don't think anybody ever came to anything serious behind it. So here, of course, is the 8th stained glass window, even though it's not connected to the chapel and therefore should not be the 8th Azuran angel that they discuss, and we talked about this in the chapel the other day. The cool things about this, of course, that I didn't even notice the first time I saw this, or possibly the second time, is that he's holding the cursed effigy in his hand. So just the link between him and death. Obviously, the infinity sign synonymous with death in Mora, and he's just kind of cool looking. So while we're here, the Red Prince, the rough draft. There was a Red Prince who sat on a red throne, who had a red crown of rubies and a red castle made of stone. The important thing here is that this is a draft predating the original publication of Red Prince, obviously, and as far back as this draft, Mary is including imagery of Simon sitting on the throne with crown and scepter and holding the effigy, the 3 pieces needed for the ascension ceremony for the blue throne. Obviously here he's wearing the paper red crown, not the blue, but the fact that he's holding both trappings for the ceremony are important here, because when you get to the printed version of this, he's not holding the effigy anymore. And so the question is, did she pull that out, or was that part of the editing and censorship where they had to make her change the ending because of its political nature? Was that one of the other things that had to be changed for that? Or did she pull it out intentionally, leaving this one here as the clue for us? Because it's obviously a clue for the Ascension ceremony. I mentioned the Cracking the Cryptid guys. They actually were just talking about this tonight when they were broadcasting. They're like, wait, I remember we saw this picture in a book or something somewhere, and it was him and the throne, and he had the thing, and it's like, wait, we got that other paper that had Deadly as a Stone and the scepter, and I started to put the clues together. So this is one of the clues that can help you lead towards uncovering and figuring out what to do to ascend the throne room. The prince had a love for all things red. It's the only true color, the prince often said. Obviously, again, all the red things here. Most of which end up in the gallery painting, of course. He could not stand the sight of a canary or a crow. He could not stand the white of a swan in the snow. I tend to be oblivious to symbolism. I don't think it ever occurred to me on first reading The Red Prince that canary, yellow, crow, black, there's Arch Aries, Orinda Aries, and then Morajai as the white for the swan. Not even when I read Swinburne. It didn't make connections the first time I read it. He never looked up for fear of the view. He had heard that the sky was not a red hue. And of course, here we have an image of what should be... It's either Reddington, but much more likely that's Orinda Castle that we see underground and in History of Orindia. It's a sketch, so it's really hard, and the pennants, Reddington, you only get a good look at it from a distance unless you fly over there and free roam. So I'm going to go with Castle, but leaving room that actually could be Reddington, and I don't remember what the final draft looked like off the top of my head. He didn't see the birds or the changing of the leaves, and he never saw the sights of life's many symphonies. And this is where you're already diverting from the Red Prince final draft, and this is, of course, the version that you hear in the epilogue for Reaching Room 46. So this is the version that Mary wrote for you. He couldn't see beyond the red shade he was aware, and he never caught a glimpse of the world I had to share. I've seen suggestions of what color the bird might be. Obviously, we don't know for sure. I don't think there's any... The only stars, you could make the connection that maybe that's the trunks, but that's about all you can get out of that one. And the planet, is that Dahlia? That's big and has the ring on it? Or is it Vea? Planets, Observatory. Vea does not. Dahlia does. Okay, I was right. So that's arguably Dahlia as the planet there, and then you can only make out the 2 stars. But one day the prince saw something new, and if you look closely, you might see it too. Obviously, the butterfly. The skies parted and the clouds withdrew. The prince had a new favorite color, the color blue. Now, there's not too much more to say about the ending of that one, other than, wow, he discovered the sky. It's much more impactful when you hear her reading it during the epilogue, obviously. I've seen people break down in tears over that, and I don't blame them. It's beautiful. The new clue. And the differences here are not often important, but there's extra things in here, obviously, that are. All he needed was to find a new clue. If he found a new clue, he would know what to do. If he knew what to do, he'd likely tell you, for you are looking for a new clue too. There's not a whole lot on this page of how many memos should be visible, so it's nice that you see her writing down her thoughts, and again, when you see this, you're like, if you haven't put everything together yet, there's enough extra stuff in this version of the book to lead you further towards where you're supposed to go with some of these puzzles. He had retraced his sketches and studied the files, rewritten his theories, and gone through the piles of evidence shown to nobody known, and retraced his steps as it stretched on for miles. The suspect list is needed. We'll add it in the final illustration. You can see her making the notes about the signs. Double check with Kirk about documents. At this point, then, she's writing this after she's disappeared, while she's in the safe house planning the heist. Double check with Kirk about documents means one way or the other, Kirk Darren knows about Mary still being alive. He may not be a child of the Blackwater, but he knows enough that she is alive so that she can connect with him and ask about making sure the documents go in the rooms. And I mentioned, and I put it in, I didn't say it in the video, but I put it in my editorial notes while I was editing the video for the part 1 of this. Whose handwriting is it on all the notes in the the pantry, the office, etc. That all caps, very neat handwriting. So it's not Denny. We don't see anybody else's handwriting that really would be a match. And so there's a very strong case that that's Kirk Darren's handwriting. And here she is, double check with Kirk about the documents, making sure, hey, make sure you leave these documents with this, the lowercase here. So I'm putting out there, I had put out there in that video, maybe Kirk, maybe this, maybe that. At this point, I'm relatively confident that is probably Kirk Darren's handwriting on those memos. Or the notes and stuff. The dead herrings, haha. And then, of course, here's your hint about the gates. One of them, medium gate. Look at the steps, the space between the steps. So many clues, not just in a new clue, but in this draft of just in case you haven't figured this out, here's another clue. And this out, here's another clue. This thing is jam-packed. And then here we go with the numbers. He had looked high and low in all the rooms. He had searched every corner of all the tombs. For in this case, he had checked every space. If he found a new clue, he'd know what to do. Note to the publisher, insert small case numbers barely visible between the marked words above. And again, the note to the publisher, this book wasn't published until a year after she was already disappeared. And they said, well, no, this was already in the works months before that. Clearly not. So the publisher was on board with the idea, at least, that, the timeline not checking out. So the publisher had to know that she was still around after she had already been disappeared. Swap the king with the rook. Obviously, in the final version, you do swap. The rook is what's here on this page. So, she's not just talking about swapping them on what is shown on the page. This is also a hint towards the castle, obviously, as is the too much overlap with the clue in the secret passage, which is one of the hardest parts of the castle cipher to discover. I don't remember how I found it anymore. It's too long ago. It may have been from this. But I know that one was so hard, and that one's one of the last ones I ever see anyone find. Usually with help, even just saying, pay attention to that. Like little hints to nudge them in the right direction, because otherwise it's so rare to see someone go into the secret passage from the back where they get a clear view of it. And then the soot that's there in her thing is obviously another part of the castle cipher itself. He looked and he looked under beds and in nooks. Too obvious? He questioned the maids, he questioned the cooks. It was already over when he spoke to the chauffeur, who told him new clues were found only in books, pointing in the right direction to go. And then replace the fork with something connected to 10, and what's there instead is fruit. 3 pieces of fruit that add up to 10 steps. And tome after tome that the library loaned, and the books that he had already owned, were searched from their covers all the way through. If he found a new clue, he'd know what to do. You see the cuckoo clocks, one of which you see the arrows in the Tor direction, the anti-clockwise. You see the clue towards the anagram, You see, and without any help, you can see the names of the books already there. He changed all the letters in the lines that he found. Lines as in ranks or lines as in spines. He changed all the colors for each key that he wound, in a nod to my uncle's parlor game, which the timing of my uncle's parlor game, that one, and I pointed this out last time, that as far as we know, the parlor boxes were brought to Herbert's attention in like 1992, 1993, 92. In April of 92 is when M. Lowry, and this, near as we can tell, and this is again based on the assumption that when Lowry checked out Sightseer's Guide to Reddington in 1992, that is probably the same time that he was there and was talking to Herbert about the parlor boxes and sent him the rules to the parlor game, etc. And so the timing of that versus this is probably a discrepancy. I have not seen an explanation that would account for the fact that Herbert did not have the parlor box rules at the time when this was being written, not by several years. And so the question, was there already a parlor game that involved something at the boxes? That seems weird, but that's the only theoretical explanation that would make sense, but it actually does not make any sense that would be there. So until someone has an explanation for me, I find that to be a bit of a discrepancy in the timeline, because this was absolutely being written while Mary was underground in 1987, and the parlor box did not come to, and the rules didn't come to Herbert's attention for another 5 years. So he doubled the meaning of each seasonal greeting, as my mother used to call me, Mary, and he found the diction of each word was sound. Unending homophones, I think, if I'm reading that one correctly. You see the denoted in verse at there. You see the gates and gates again. So just in case you need the clue, right. And here's where you learn lore, word, and your name. I think those made it into the final draft, didn't they? He stayed up all night and studied the maps. He laid out the floor plans and measured the gaps. And if his directory was a trajectory, it was nothing short of a full mental lapse. From what I was told, I believe Margle's directory is currently 22 rooms short of completion. No cause for concern yet, as Uncle has thankfully removed the pump room from the draft pool. So, pump room has been removed. They're in the safe house, obviously, during this, and it is flooded with the reservoir up, so there's no way to access it, since you can't change the water level. But this also means that Margle was around for quite a while that summer after Mary's disappearance. Because, unless he was here every single day like we are, it takes a while to build up those 22 rooms, or out of 110 possible rooms, he was only missing 22, some of which were long out of the floor plan, the draft pool, some of which were removed specifically at this time. But it would have taken him quite a while to get that many rooms to complete his directory. So it kind of tells me that Markle was around for quite a while doing his investigation. And then this is your clue, of course, again, and this is in the final draft, where you see the vase in the entrance hall with the hammer right there. A man obsessed and cuckoo too, they would say as he would wander through. The best medicine is not yet evidence. If he found a new clue, he'd know what to do. Having read this so many times, having scoured over each of the lines, have you exhausted your search? Have you seen all the signs? And again, one more, just in case. Here you go. Here's another hint. You see the XYZ ABC, the major key, all already laid out here in this rough draft. And then show the entire route. Hint, hint, Metro. Look, Metro. Oh. Or is there perhaps something due, something overlooked but now in view? Have you really found it? Could it finally be true? If it's a new clue, you know what to do. Remove the sign from this final illustration, because you don't want to confuse things. I'm looking at the handwritten versus typed memos, and remind Randolph to set this up before we leave. this being the admin key for Bo Lee. So again, Randolph obviously knew they were there. They had been communicating with them the whole time via the admin logs. So there's so much packed in here. It's impressive. And I can now check off in books. We have the Red Prince manuscript and the New Clue manuscript. And in the room draft, obviously, so far today we have done the tomb. Now we can finally get on with the rest of the day. Apologies that it takes so long to go through all this stuff, but that's what this series is doing everything, talking about everything. Why I tag in the edited YouTube video, it's why the rooms are broken out in pairs. You can, if you're interested in a particular room in the lore, you can quickly find it. And go from there. I really would like to do utility closet, but I don't like dead ending right at the entrance hall, obviously. Coat check. A cloakroom where guests may leave their coats, bags, or hats in exchange for a claim ticket. This floor plan was usually drafted adjoining the entrance hall during large social events such as a ball or gala, however you want to pronounce that one. There's not a whole lot to be said about this one. The blue tent memo for the coat room is... where did it go? Coat check is drawn slightly more often the day after checking a new item. Straightforward. So if you have not noticed that yet, after you've checked an item the next day, it is more likely to come up earlier in that next day so you can get your item back. We've already talked about parlor. Guest bedroom, kitchen. We haven't done kitchen yet, so why not? A standard kitchenette with all the typical amenities: a stove, refrigerator, oven, and sink. This gallery is where the cooking staff prepares the daily cuisine that will be later served in the dining room. The only real interesting thing here, obviously, here you can see the menu. Do you know what to look for? Beef stew pie. Yum. And you can buy the food. There's cat food. I want to say that at some point the cat food might disappear, and I think you can refill the water that's there if the water disappears as well. I think I've seen that happen. I could have dreamed that and made that up. So if you know one way or the other, let me know. But otherwise, I don't know that there's a whole lot left to talk about in the kitchen. Obviously, when you have the water turned on, you can refill the watering can here, so it's useful that way. And this is primary to get steps later on in the day. I don't hate a courtyard here. I wish it had a shovel in it, or anything useful. I will take a breakfast nook, because I have a way out of this. Hello? And I think we talked, but we didn't have the ability to look last time. Yes, I think this is Kirk Darren's handwriting. This capital, neat handwriting that is also this handwriting on here, which makes it interesting that he's talking about this. Sinclair has many secrets it'll take to his grave. Antechamber must be a way to open it. I don't know that that's his notes about it so much as him leaving hints about it. So it's not literally Kirk Darren trying to figure out how to get into room 46. And I did not actually read the description last time for the furnace. But it is the main centralized heat source for the estate. You may find yourself starting to sweat after drafting it. And we didn't really talk about it because it was sort of one of those crap, I've got the furnace, okay, move on with life. Obviously, if you power the furnace, you get a key from there, which I've used once or twice in bingo runs and that sort of thing when I needed a key. Hello. Okay. Score. I would really like the ability to make fire today, then. Okay. Ladyship's chamber. Her ladyship's chamber, tucked quietly away in the west wing of Mount Holly, is the decorative bedroom of your grandmother, Lady Epson. The style you find unique in the house, a fitting tribute to her childhood home in Araja. Childhood home. In theory, the Epson family lived in Featherfall Keep. That doesn't mean they didn't have another house, because they're obviously a wealthy family, another house in Araja, where Clara Epson may have spent her youth. There's always the possibility that she's actually Caitlin J.R.E. That there's a very common conspiracy theory around that. Yeah, it's why is this her childhood home? Why is Araja her childhood home? That's one of those lingering questions that is still open to a bit of interpretation. And when we find the diary key, obviously we'll be able to open that. But in the meantime, there's Lord Epson, Lady Ashlyn, and our grandfather, her husband, Simon, with the Arajan symbol on the front of the locket, which I think I remember when I was putting the lore video together, I saw someone suggest that Simon and Clara's relationship, their marriage, was a political one that was not one of affection, etc. I call BS on that. Like, there's every indication that the two of them loved each other. There's the heart on the tree in the family tree of the root cellar. She keeps a locket with his face. She was devoted to his memory, visited his grave, talks about him in endearing terms about his bunk room in her sleep journal, etc. Like, there is every indication that the two of them loved each other. So I call BS on anyone who thinks that it was only a political marriage, rather. And our first instance of the spiral. Does it never end? And the answer is no, it never ends, because the game never ends. This game has no ending. There are countless theories about the spiral of stars. Most I don't understand well enough to go into, but you are welcome to go dive into them yourself. Let's see. I don't think there's a whole lot else in here. I'm a little curious about the ballerina, just because it's not a common thing to find around the house. And then, of course, the little Arajan hat thing, inkwell, whatever it is, not 100% certain. And the Mary Poppins-esque swan-headed umbrella there. All right, we have 2 sets of rooms here. I'm going to need something.
Not garage, I would prefer. Although I do like the keys. We've already talked about the bedroom. Okay, not real thrilled with my choices here.
Yeah, I gotta progress, go somewhere, and I don't think we've talked about the commissary yet. We have not. Commissary. The staff commissary is always stocked with household goods and supplies at a reasonable cost. This provides the servants of the estate an invaluable service, especially to the live-in staff, who may only expect to leave the property once or twice a month. Which would include Hartley, either Bridget or maid number 2. And those are the only 2 we know of offhand who were live-in staff. They have their own quarters. Mrs. Babbage presumably stayed with her family, probably in Reddington. That would make sense. And we don't know about anybody else, so... No shovel. Yeah. Or metal detector. But I like the boiler room. Now I need another gem. Hey, look, gems.
Alright, and we solved the boiler already. So either direction's fine. Which way are you? You're this way? Yeah, that's pointed over there. Which way do I want to try and connect, actually? Just trying to think of getting which way is going to be the best way to try and get the lab. Alright, so we go. Archives. Passageway gives me 2 more chances this direction. Let's do it. It's fine. I need security. I may need to backtrack down to the dark room and find a gem really fast. But while I'm here,
Okay, so this is going to be either Ladyships or the tomb. Obviously, we're going to do both. Upgrade discs. Already passed them. Tomb in the abandoned mine and her Ladyship's chamber. I mean, no matter which one you choose, it's fairly difficult to trigger this. I'm going to go with this one in the hopes that, because it can be useful for getting the money things I need. This is great for gems, but doubling my money, I've used it in the past for some of the big purchases on special runs. So I know it can be useful. Sweet. I don't care about your Courtyard. Give me my 2 gems. Alright, so while we're doing this, let's see, which ones have... Okay, green room, green directory. Okay, so... No, that's the greenhouse. Where's the Courtyard? There it is. So, the description of the Courtyard for the bonus gems that I chose, the description of the Courtyard doesn't change in the room directory. But in the option for, it just still says charming spot, etc. If you choose the dig spots, the room description changes to a charming spot, granting guests a bit of fresh air and open skies within the privacy of the manor walls. However, the ground below looks like it's been recently disturbed, and several suspicious piles of dirt spoil the otherwise picturesque scene. And then the Courtyard, the beginning is the same up through the privacy of the manor walls. You can't quite put your finger on it, but this room now really reminds you of the corridor. So just the way that the descriptions change is, you know, it's cool. I like the way they do it. The bunk room, if I remember correctly, nothing changes on the descriptions. Violet, bunk room, yeah, nothing changes.
okay. Are you gonna be? I don't want to take the risk. We need gems. It's a lot of backtracking, but if we can get the lab done, then it's all worth it no matter what else we get done today. So I need something that's going to give me a gem. Hey look, a gem. Wouldn't mind like a key or more gems as well. I'd love to do Nursery, because then we can read the red prints, the other one, we get that active, but I can't take the risk that it's not going to give me a gem back. So we're just going to do Storeroom. Have we... Blue. Storeroom, we've already done. And just in case we didn't talk about it, the descriptions for Storeroom don't change no matter what upgrade you get. I think I normally talk about it when I'm doing the upgrade disc, and I may mention it again when we get that upgrade disc. But for now, just know that all of them are the same. Okay, while we're here, go ahead and swap the power, check this door. Because it is the flow of power that affects the likelihood that you will... Why are you visually not changing? That's weird. There it goes. Actually, sending power through the door is what makes it more likely to draw rooms that benefit from the power. So you have to change it if you want to try. I hate using keys. Obviously, I don't want to do either of these at the moment. I still have a gem that I can get from there if I need it. But for now... Damn it. Grapple. Alright, well... This is fantastic. I have the key card, but it's turned off right now. Alright, well, back to the drawing room. Literally. Okay, something with a key now, I guess. Money wouldn't help me. Boudoir would help me. If I can find a key. Also extraordinarily helpful. It's another upgrade disc, and it's more gems tomorrow, so if nothing else, like... But the billiard room... Well, much more probably has a key for me. We have... The boiler room is common now, so getting the boiler room is not going to be that difficult for me to do. Trying to connect it to the lab, etc. So I think at this point, I'm just going to go for the morning room, get the gems, get the upgrade disc, and then if I find a key somewhere here, great. If not, then, oh well. We'll do it another day. Okay. Lots of keys now, for lots of dice, so if I can get a key, I can probably get the lab. I don't even know how many stars we're at now, but I need more, and maybe the observatory, maybe we're at Cloudus, I don't know. No, we're not. But the steps don't hurt either. Okay. Okay, guest bedroom could have a key. Closet is also likely to have a key. I don't really have it on the other great... There we go. I don't have a whole lot of great options that are say, yes, choose this for the key. Alright, so we have the passageway, which we have to go through anyway. But the power is going towards the morning room now, right? Yes. Glad I remembered that. Okay.
Alright, we need the lab. We got the lab. We're good. Okay. Just forget you have to click into this thing before you can adjust the... Alright. That is a permanent upgrade complete. Again, really wish we had the workshop today. There's a lot of things I'd love to light on fire today. Okay, there's our Blackbridge Grotto. And the morning room upgrade disc. Guess used to be cool for a brief moment when there was a glitch in it that let you endlessly get results from the guessing page. So if you figured out what room it was, you could click it right and then click it again and again and again and again, and you just endlessly got, like, you had to get to put the paper down maybe, or you just kept going with it. I don't remember because it doesn't work anymore, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, you used to be able to get unlimited upgrades from that thing. This is great for your main file, long-term use, building your allowance, that sort of thing. That's what I got on my main file. I don't regret it, but in general, I prefer the Geist room these days for challenge modes because I need the flexibility for specific purposes, obviously. So, room descriptions, however, absolutely change for that one. So we have bedrooms. Obviously, now we have the Geist bedroom. Some say the dead number among the guests of Mount Holly who have laid to rest in these beds. And I think that's the only one that changes. Bedrooms, bedrooms, bedrooms. Guest bedroom. Yeah, so the original, the guest bedroom is some kind of bedroom. Your guess is as good as mine. The quest bedroom does not change the description, and then obviously we have that one now. Okay, it's going to be locked. No, I'm surprised, actually. Okay, Great Hall, not a terrible idea here. because it automatically opens into the foundation, so I get what I need to out of it without really worrying. But I'm not sure I'll be able to get out of the foundation again. Yeah, I guess we'll find out. What else am I going to do with it? Okay, Great Hall. A room of many doors and even more choices, the Great Hall is unquestionably the largest hallway of the house, but it is also the least useful, for the doors lining its walls are always locked, perhaps for a reason. Not sure why lining is in quotation marks there. I don't know. Obviously, the Great Hall has the four corners of the ones you're looking for. In the corner that has the lever in it on any given day usually also has something metallic as a reward, whether keys or coins in it. And so if you have a metal detector, then if you have near one of these corners and you have to choose, go with the one that is pinging on the metal detector, because that's your most likely option to have the lever in it. Obviously, it changes every day. You see the layout in the day's drafting studio, but that's not really an option for today. Oh, good, there's a security door. I was hoping that would be the case. Okay, I'm tempted by the master bedroom for multiple reasons, and I think I'm going to go with it. As much as I'd love to just keep going with the house and use dice and look for things, the ability, some of the stuff I want to do that I can get done now with this are quite helpful. Let's see. Okay, so now bedrooms. Violet. I can read. Master bedroom. No idea what's up with the cannons or the giant swords. They're cool, but it makes me wonder. The original Morajai boxes is a collector's copy. Morajai box, fun for the family. Morajai boxes were a popular fad in the early 30s among both the peerage and the common crowds. These small mechanical puzzle boxes originated on the island Morajai as children's game, but quickly gained popularity among seafarers who valued the compact boxes as both lockbox and entertainment on long voyages. Over time, the boxes spread from port to port and eventually found their way into the homes and hearts of every realm. A traditional Morajai box is distinguished by a lid featuring a 3x3 grid of white and gray tiles. Each white tile can be pressed like a button, which will change the color of that tile and the surrounding squares. The goal of each box is to find a way to make all four corner tiles into white squares. These simple rules evolved as the game spread across the world. Regional variations introduced new colors and mechanics, offering greater challenges and local flavor. While the fad may have ended, Morajai boxes still make for a memorable gift for both collectors and puzzle enthusiasts. And this one has in the past given me problems, so I may end up resetting and... No, we got it. I had the instructions for most of the Morajai boxes, and this one, if I don't see the right thing right off the bat, has been known to take me a couple of minutes to figure out. But, you know, we got it that time without a big deal. Let's see here. Okay. And again, here's that handwriting. And who gets to address the Baron in such familiarity? His chief of security, perhaps? So again, I think this is Kirk Darren's handwriting. Herb, the controls for the Foundation elevator are located behind the Foundation wall. This means the controls can only be accessed by another room adjacent to the Foundation. Unclear if this is a security feature or a flaw. Please advise. Who's concerned about security? Kirk.
Simon, I never intended to finish writing this letter, but by now you must know
And I've seen multiple theories there, from Herbert died while typing that in a moment of terrible irony, that it's a joke on his part, that I didn't mean to finish writing this, and I didn't. Ha ha ha. I've seen all sorts of theories. The interesting thing about it is that there's just enough here that you can get the indication that this is the typewriter that wrote several of the letters that we find. And this is also one of the few, if not the only place that actually has an I key on the keyboard. So, missing plenty of other things, but it does have the I key. No Swinburne yet. There's not a whole lot else here, except, of course, this copy of The Red Prince. To my encouraging uncle, who opened many doors for me, ever grateful, Mary. And her tiny note, P.S. They made me change the ending, of course, as you predicted. So we read the other version already, but here we have the published version of The Red Prince. Notice the lack of scepter and effigy now. There was a red prince who sat on a red throne. He had a red crown made of rubies and a red castle made of stone. The prince had a love for all things red. It's the only true color, the prince often said. He could not stand the sight of a canary or a crow. He could not stand the white of a swan in the snow. And he never looked up for fear of the view. He had heard that the sky was not a red hue. So he always had a book to turn his eyes down if he was ever outside when the clouds weren't around. And this is the first page that differs from her draft copy. And now it's all about him keeping his eyes down and not seeing the color blue. And do you know which book the prince often had? The one that made him happy whenever he was sad? The story he had read in the bath and the bed, and maybe you can guess with the clues we've said. It was a story of a boy who also wore red, and he looked like our prince from his toes to his head. Curious about the grandfather clock there. There are several people interested in the grandfather clocks in this house and a couple of idiosyncrasies. One of them, the time on it stops under certain circumstances. Probably a glitch, but there are always theories. And as you, my reader, might also assume, this book is quite near you, in fact, in the same room. A story about you, if it needs to be said, about a red prince and his book, the red book we just read. Awfully self-referential. I like this picture. This is the only picture we have of Daniel. And obviously young Simon, Mary. She is older here than she is in the picture where you see Mount Holly behind her, the picture that's in the office. So that's why I said, and this is right after college, essentially. Is when she married Daniel, and so this is obviously a few years after that, but you can see the age that she's slightly older here. So that's why I think that picture was taken around the time when she was in or leaving for college, somewhere around that age. I don't think I've ever heard anybody mention anything specifically about the house, so I don't know that there's anything here to go over and point out. Young Simon, of course. His dad, I can't think of the actor that his dad reminds me of, the image. It's not, I don't think I'm thinking of the dad from the old Dune movie, the one with Sting in it. It does kind of look like him, of course, just that nice thick beard and hair and everything. Mary, the interesting thing, if you look at here, it's really hard to make out, but she does have her swan pendant on. And you can see it in better detail elsewhere. There's just enough detail showing here that you can say it's the same as you see on her elsewhere, when you can tell what the pendant is. So, but I like this, and I like that Herbert kept this next to his nightstand, and it kind of just goes to show his affection for Mary and her family. Okay. Well, unless there's some really bizarre miracle, we're not getting into 46 today. So, really, we just need to head outside.
I can't afford sludging? No. Not unless I found some more gold. I guess technically. Okay, because I've got plenty of steps to work with now. Why not? Let's give it a try, see what happens. We're going to... First now, right after I check to see if he was there. I'm seeing lots of Discord pings from someone else. Never mind, okay. We're going to log in the network. I'm glad that I got the Blackbridge Grotto connected now. It just opens up some possibilities here. Remote terminal access? Yes, please. I would like the office. Spread gold, please. Okay, now we just need a little bit of gold. There we go. That's literally all we needed. Let's see if we get a key. If not, probably we're done. We got a key! Alright, let's see what do we get here in the last little bit, and then we're heading out.
Anything useful? Yes, actually. The pool. Our first visit to the pool. The pool. That's the pump room. There it is. Okay. An indoor Arindian pool was one of the more modern additions to the estate, the inclusion of which provided as convenient excuse for building a handful of other rooms which not only complement an indoor pool, but are often compulsory inclusions. When Mary said that Herbert pulled the pump room out of the draft pool, the question is that did he just lock it behind the swimming pool, or was it pulled out entirely, which I suspect it was, and then did he then change the pool to make it so that it added the pump room back in specifically? Because we know you can change the floor plans after they've already been made. So it's sort of is that how the pump room made it back into the draft? And the pool has a blue note that is there's only one location in the estate where every room in the drafting pool can be drafted. And of course, that's the outer room, specifically using the monk blessing. So, which every late game player obviously already knows. Hey, we're not locked out again. Let's see, Geist. We can go corridor and immediately go. We can go nursery, but we're dead. Or we can redraw and see what we get. Let's redraw. Let's just see if there's anything interesting that's going to come out of this. Veranda's not horrible. I really want the workshop. We can spread keys, but we're not trying to do that. I'm tempted to just do sauna and go, because I need this. I need to maintain a few steps here. So I think that we're going to do sauna. I don't see a reason to actually go in there. I don't see any shoes on the ground. Where is it? A traditional wood-lined Carrarican-style sauna, temperature-controlled and exceptionally relaxing. The invigorating effects of this room will leave you waking up the next day feeling rejuvenated. And the sauna, of course, has a blue tent memo. I was accidentally on it earlier. Where'd it go? Sauna, there we go. Saunas are commonplace in both businesses and residences in Korarika. Well, why would you need saunas to be commonplace in your residence unless it's frickin' cold? So there's a little bit of a hint about the weather in Korarika. Sauna's been done. Okay. I think we're all caught up. And now we head in here for real. And we'll spend a little bit of time talking about the grotto. Oh, this tune. Castle, court, cloak with lots of binary. Again, the theories about this and the impossible meanings there are myriad. I don't have a cohesive enough understanding of most of them. I've seen lots of explanations start and then fizzle out. I've seen lots of like, well, this is what the numbers mean. Okay, what's next? So, again, if you really want to go check this out, hit up the Sanctum chat on the Discord channel for blueprints. You have to prove... It's not immediately visible, by the way. You have to prove that you have, I think, at least 8 trophies, if not a full trophy case, to get the role to get to even see that chat. So look for the proof of inheritance or proof of mastery, I think is the one you need actually. So if you, by the way, if you're racing and you want to cut that cutscene short, you can, but that door stops and you can't get through, like it only partially opens. So to fix that, just you can skip the cutscene, pull a microchip and put the microchip right back in, and the doors will do what they're supposed to do. Little tip there if you're ever racing a bingo or something. Save yourself a few seconds. And the throne room. Thank you. This place, I remember just being like absolutely dumbfounded when I found this for the first time and was looking around. It just, the fact that this was here, because I didn't know yet about Castle and everything, and the fact that you can see Reddington out there, it's way more impressive from this distance. In free roam, the free roam video, I fly out there and get a much closer look, and it's less impressive up front. It's cool. I love the way it's set up, and it's great here from a distance. But yeah, when you see it up close, it's like, this looks weird now. It's sort of hard to tell based on the geography, but if that is, I mean, obviously that is Reddington, and if you look at the geography of, where is my note? Okay, so Mount Holly. I'm trying to do this in reverse, visibly. Reddington, just north and a little bit east of Mount Holly to where we are. And then considerably further north is the next range of mountains, and that's where Featherfall Keep is. So probably Featherfall is somewhere up here. At first I thought maybe it was over there because this is a pretty tall mountain. I think it's just a function of distance. But so probably Featherfall Keep is somewhere that way, because we are more or less pointed north here. And the map that you get in the Sightseer's Guide to Reddington would indicate that Featherfall is somewhere in this mountain range. I honestly really wish you could see just like a hint of it out there somewhere. I think that'd be awesome, but I guess it's too far away, or it's not in a position you can actually see, or they just didn't care to try. Who knows? There's kind of a squared off looking block there, but that's the wrong direction. Anyway, so I had the idea once of bringing the telescope up here and seeing if you could zoom in on Reddington so that you could get a good close look at it, just like you see in the postcard. Doesn't work. Worth a try. But I like this area. I wish there's so much to it. I wish there was a little more, just because I'm greedy and I want more lore about this game. There's nothing viable or interesting down there. I've flown down and checked. The castle that's under us, I initially thought was right under that spot. It's actually like right over there. It's a little bit further south and west than that particular spot is. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and hit up this thing for our first visit, and we'll come back here again once we've set up the dish, obviously. And most likely the first keys that you find is either you figure out Hartley because of the note in the servants' quarters, or because that's where you find out what the format of the admin keys looks like, or if you break through in the freezer and see Riva D, then you might be able to figure it out from that. And so we're going to go, there's 3 different types of access that you can use here. The first of which is, where's my lowercase trigger? No, L1, excuse me. Moor. Oh, too far. Randolph Moore. And you can't change a whole lot here. But maxing it out at a month speeds up your connection just slightly, and you don't have to listen to the dial-up noise as often. Could turn these on now. So again, this is one of the reasons I wanted to come out and get this early, so that before I got to the shelter, we could spend some time in the shelter reading the shelter emails. But that's done. The user database. You can see these. Anne's has a little bit slightly different. You can see the descriptions. We'll go check hers next. And then the 3 additional delisted admin keys. In reality, those are with P, Bowley, and Rib J. Or no, with P doesn't work. Only Rib J does. But with P was one that was delisted and no longer functions. Bowley obviously is the one that was set up as a dummy for the new clue, and Rib J is the real one from your mom. But oh wait, you can see these. Okay, we don't need to go into Anne's first. I forgot you can actually read these from here. More R, account created in the 86, last login September of 93. So actually, surprisingly, before, not as close to when you might think of with regards to day one. Like he logged in further back than I would have thought. Lead lab technician for Cinca, set up the estate terminals and the Blackbridge network. Kim Thompson, assistant lab technician. She only joined the manor in June and last logged in August. Usually in the laboratory. Recent transfer from Cinca, former executive assistant to H.S. Sinclair, trusted with full admin privileges. Baba. Ann Babbage, again, same account created back in 86 because that's when the network, the Blackbridge thing was set up in that era. Last logged in 91, mostly in the office, of course, and her personal notes, author of all personal notes. Hartley was only had access for a very brief time. He was covering for Randolph when Randolph was out during that very limited period there. Obviously, most drafted in the servant quarters. The Baron's valet for 20 years, substituting for Mr. Moore until we find him suitable as assistant admin. So Hartley was a member of the staff for 20 years, and then Barrett Herbert's valet for 20 years. So roughly half the time he was with the family, he was Herbert's personal valet. And then Rivedi, the former groundskeeper, most often the greenhouse, terminated March 1992 for suspicion of blackmail and not watering the plants. Pretty straightforward. And then, of course, the admin logs. I have the full set of them here. We're going to look at the admin logs when we use one of the other IDs, though. And we're going to go with... Let's go with Rib J. Let's go with your mom's. And I'll fill in what the timeline was that she was fabricating as we read these, because I don't want to have to read through all of them separately. So, Rib J. And the way, obviously, you figure this one out is, you know, if you study closely enough that your mom used the Jean Ribbon pseudonym, the alias, from the passports in the vault, and you notice that Jean Ribbon checked out the pump room after your mother's disappearance, and also Paul White in her own handwriting, so you can compare handwriting, you can tell that it was her that did it, obviously, And that prompts you to, well, I'm going to try other names as well. You figure that one out, and that's what gets you in here. I don't know of any other clue that points you towards using Gene Ribbon here. Except, let me try the other names that I've come across at the house. That's the only way I've ever seen anybody figure it out. That's how I figured it out. I don't know of anything more definite than that would lead you to pick this. So if you're aware of something more definite than just, let me try other names, please let me know, because I don't remember ever seeing anything that would help you arrive at the conclusion that you should be using that login here. So we're going to admin logs. All right, and again, when we get to the fake ones, I'll let you know. So as I said, back in '86 was when the Blackbridge connections was set up, the whole server here. So last cable's been finally laid and the office terminal's been connected to the central network. Given the ever-changing nature of the rooms of the estate, we chose to install the server outside of the house to maintain connection stability at all times. A small cavern off the eastern drive was selected for the server site. A few days later, all remaining computer terminals on the estate are now connected to the network mainframe and will now begin testing remote access capabilities between them. I've also asked the Baron to come up with a name for the network. This is one of those time periods when theoretically Baron Herbert could have been doing his 8 Realms tour. There's not a whole lot else going on right now, but the fact that he's talking to Herbert, trying to come up with a name, etc., I don't think they're doing that via letter and snail mail somewhere. And we don't know what email looks like across countries. We know you can send files and stuff, so Herbert could be connected to his email while abroad somewhere and staying abreast of what's going on. I kind of doubt it, but it's always possible. A few days later, after some deliberation, our network has been named Blackbridge, somewhat ominous name for the project given the legend from which the term derives, though very fitting considering we chose an actual cave to house the mainframe. I only hope that our servers do not suffer that same fate that befell those in the story. Buried alive. Regular maintenance report fixed a connection error that was occurring between the office and security terminal. We have also added electronic mail capabilities to each terminal that can be accessed via the network. Recording capabilities of all cameras on the estate have been disabled. Additionally, the existing video playback functionality on the security terminal has also been removed. Now that is February, is around the time your mom is going missing, obviously. Her actual disappearance, and I want to make sure I don't screw up the date on some of these things. So on the 10th, where he writes that one, that's the same day that Mary is holding up the train route in the security camera. So she is on the estate at this point, planning out what's going to happen to her over the next few days. Those are the security recordings in SWANSONGHSS. That's when these were recorded, is right before this, and then on this same day was when she holds up that last one where she holds up the train terminal diagram. So that was this day. And that yesterday was when you see her and Herbert or someone else, but as far as I can tell it's Herbert, working in the library, and then that person, presumably Herbert, carrying the vase across the entrance hall. So that's the timeline of what's going on right now. In 11 days, on February 21st, that's the date of your mom's disappearance. So again, all of this is more or less contemporaneous. Let me grab the other page. Sorry, I got another page where all the rest of my emails are. On 2/10/87, on that one where he's talking about the recording capabilities, on the Boli account, that's the first one that Randolph has swapped. So instead of saying the recording capabilities have been turned off, that one instead says 3 new is from Lee B, and it's 3 new admin keys have been added to the network user database. Lee B, Prophecy, and who knew? Prophecy, and who knew? Getting a little cheeky with the names there. And obviously these are supposed to be the 3 IDs that are delisted. Obviously, 2 of those were fake. And so that's Lee B, Gene Ribbon, and Paul White. Or Paul Withers, excuse me. And then there's a second log that was from the Libby on the same date on the 10th. Admin log view access restricted to the following admin keys for those 3 people. Then there's an extra couple of records inserted, so it's between the 10th and this one, the 2nd of March is where most of the Libby fake in logs are located. So then after setting up and restricting the access so only they can see what they're doing, there's a note from Prov C. It says, Lee, we're planning something later this year and need to make sure communication on here is not being archived. Are there additional steps we can take to ensure privacy? To which Lee replies, already taken care of. We're now bypassing message archiving. Randolph shouldn't notice anything out of the ordinary. So they're setting this up. This is all set up so that these people are not here officially. Mr. Investigator, should anyone come across these logs, we in the manor didn't know anything about this, is the way it's being set up so they have plausible deniability. That was on this February 16th. On the 17th, Prophecy says, good, no one else on the estate knows we're here, other than Mary, of course, who saw Lee on Tuesday, but who knew has a plan to take care of her. On the 18th, Lee says, if it must be done, it must be done. Just see to it the body's not discovered. The last thing we need is for the Red Guard to be snooping around here. On the 21st, Hunu replies, she won't be found, rest assured. Libby says, let's disperse for now. I'll meet you all in the safe house in Reddington in 4 days. Then, once the inquiry's over, we'll proceed with our plans for the museum. So again, these fake logs are being set up as if they're the ones doing the museum heist. And also, they're the ones that kill and make Mary disappear. So there's 2 different crimes being set up in the secret logs. Just in case anyone ever discovers it, they're trying to cover their bases. Okay, now we go back to, that was all in February. Now we're back to March. From Randolph says 2 new admin keys have been added to the network user database. These are the other 2 actual ones that have been added for him so far, with P and RibJ. All right, Gene and I are successfully logged on now. These admin logs can... All right, Gene and I are successfully logged on now. These admin logs can only be accessed by the Blackbridge terminal, so I advise we use this for sensitive messages and suspend electronic mail moving forward. The emails he's talking about are the ones you access in the shelter, so when we draft that, we'll go over those. Moore, as long as you've got the network address from Manning, we can begin those file transfers now. We need them ASAP.
Copy that. It should be done by the time you and Philip are moved out of the shelter.
Out of the shelter. Now the key here. As soon as you've got the network address from Manning, you can begin the file transfers. Caleb Manning is not with them in the shelter. Caleb's somewhere else. He's not under a pseudonym at this point, or ever as far as we know. He's not with them in the manor at this point. Near as we can tell, he's off in Fiestra Miraja, which we'll see in a second. So, it talks about the 3 of you in the shelter, and we'll discuss that when we get there, but at this time, Caleb's not around. He is not on the site of the manor. If by Philip you mean Paul, then yes, that timeline can work for us.
Oh, well, I apologize. This admin key tripped me up for obvious reasons. I'll be wiping these logs regardless as soon as we're done here.
Paul Withers, Philip White, and his ID is with P. So it just, the names end up being a little too close and it trips Randolph up. Be at ease, friend. It is of little consequence. Let us know when the transfer is complete.
Data packet transfer from Fiestra Miraja, total size 14 kilobytes.
We finished moving and have made ourselves at home. Be advised that 2 additional crates are expected to arrive within the next 3 days. Randolph? Okay, and now this jumps ahead to July, but now we go back to the Boli fake logs, where Libby says in June 26th of 1987, resuming operations. Prophecy then says the next day, welcome back, Lee. I've been camping out of the old schoolhouse for the past month, waiting for your return. It's spacious, quiet, and should prove to be an effective base of operations outside of the purview of the staff and the Baron. So he's Again, pretending, hey, I've been here in this outer room where no one's found me yet, which is a really strange place to try and hide, considering Denny Ravane is still around and probably uses that outer room to draft his bedroom and his tool shed and etc. So, like, I don't know how the I don't know how that's supposed to work. Let's see, and then let's see, in July 10th, so at the time when Gene is writing this next one, Bo Lee writes, we should have an opening on the first day of September, which is around the same timeline as the museum heist. Can we be ready by then? And then on the 13th, Hunu replies, I don't see why not. Negotiations for transportation are in the final steps. If all goes well, we'll have air passage to Nuance secured for that date. So it's now setting up an alternative destination for where the heist people go. So if the Red Guard catches on to this and finds these logs, they'll be looking the wrong direction for the wrong people, is the theory. Instead, here we have Gene saying, Randolph, instead of simply deleting these logs, would it be possible instead to replace them with manufactured messages? I'd like to leave a trail of breadcrumbs to lure would-be clue seekers down the proverbial garden path.
Yeah, we can create a dummy admin account with pseudo privileges.
Splendid. In that case, I better get to writing. Our visitor last week has given me a bit of inspiration for a new book. So in theory, she is not writing a new clue yet. I'm not sure I buy that, though, because she only has from July 12th to September 1st to draft the whole thing, consider all the clues, put arrange for things to be put in place, microchips, and arranging for things with Kirk and all this. Like, there's too much for her to have all been trying to do it all just in this month and a half-ish time frame amidst everything else they're doing, because they're also running practice drills on the closed exhibit during this time, and they're supposed to be just hiding out. And so there's too much going on for her to have done all of it, and we've already seen in the February security footage her at the library. I think she's already putting pieces in place that will become a new clue, so she may not have created the idea as a storybook around this detective and looking for clues, etc., and solving her disappearance. She may not have had the format down for that yet. She may not have had the idea until Bon Margo was snooping around, our visitor last week. But she was clearly setting things up ahead of time, otherwise why show us her and Herbert working? And then the next log is Herbert carrying the vase, which has the microchip in it, which you find out from a new clue. And then the last bit is her with the train route that's in a new clue, and only makes sense in the context of that book. So the 3 video logs all seem to have something to do with a new clue and are 5 months before this comment. So she's clearly setting it up ahead of time, but I don't think she has the format of the detective searching for clues maybe worked out. And so then she kicks it into high gear and puts it in this form to make it something published, not just maybe some clues she'll leave for Simon later on in some other format or some other method. So the ideas inside of a new clue were already at work by this point, but the book and the format itself, I think, obviously is what she's coming up with here.
As requested yesterday, a new admin key created, though the requested name doesn't quite fit the typical length formatting.
And that takes us up through July 25th. Now on August 25th, so a month later, Lee B supposedly writes, I think Moore is planning a scheduled maintenance soon, so we should likely wrap things up here. Hunu replies, I'd say it's time to scrub these logs. They might fall under some security in the near future. And Lee B then says, delists and deletes all 3 from the user database, so you don't see them anymore. That's where the fake logs stop. And in the next day is where with P picks up, says Moore, I'd say it's about time to scrub these logs. The 4 of us are ready to go dark. So same basic timeline, and this is just a few days before the heist. Randolph, I've left the final manuscript in the safe house. Please look after the other children. Should our paths not cross again, we will embrace each other in soot and ash.
Do not look within, do not look back, for we are with you and there's nothing behind you. May the black shores guide you both.
So it's unclear whether Randolph is an actual member of the Children of Blackwater, for instance, or if he's just sympathetic to the cause and more than willing to help out, obviously. He has no hesitation helping out Mary. He's obviously very devoted to Herbert and also to Simon. His letters border on, here's some vague hints to, hey, here's all the information spelled out in front of you that you need to solve some puzzles. So he's a very helpful guy devoted to the family. Now, on the 28th is when their IDs are delisted. And obviously now we have 3 IDs. These 2 have been removed, and Bo Lee is set up after the fact to be added and then delisted at the same time, essentially, while he's editing things. Now, September 1st,
effective immediately, all electronic mail capabilities have been restricted and now can only be accessed via the office terminal. All other terminal inboxes have been archived and can only be restored via admin control.
Because on September 1st is the eve of the heist. The heist itself takes place at like 1:30 in the morning on September the 2nd. And so this is right on the verge of it. And that's the last bit in the admin logs around that time. Now we jump forward a year and a half.
Temporary access to the mainframe in Blackbridge Grotto has been restored to perform routine maintenance. Same thing again.
And a year later. And then now we change the admin privileges around so that admin access can access all the features. Personnel access is only Ann Babbage and can only see the user database. So if you figure out hers first, that's a quick way that you can get access to some of the other IDs. And then archive access is the only accessible via the special Bo Lee one. Or RibJ, excuse me. And then the fake archive access is Bo Lee, excuse me.
Remote terminal access is down while we work out a solution to reported terminal connection failures. Remote terminal access is working again. Terminal connections tested and confirmed functional. To make future testing easier, added ability to access offline terminals through the RTA when Blackbridge is open. Per request, 1 temporary admin key has been added to the network. There's Hartley being added and deactivated. And then in June of 93, there's Kim Thompson coming along, setting up new management features. And then right before day 1, so this is day 0, on November the 6th, changing of the guard. In preparation for Simon's arrival tomorrow, inbound and outbound messages, as well as off-site connections from outside the estate have been disabled per the instructions left by the Baron himself.
And so that is all of the logs, essentially, from the Blackbridge terminal. The timeline, they squeezed most of it in there in a very limited space on purpose. And obviously most of the faux logs have to do with Mary's disappearance. And so that's why they're all kind of crammed in that one little bit there. And I don't think there's anything else I need to do. I only pulled the microchips out so they respawn at their original locations. And I think we are ready to call it a day. Okay, so we got the original 4 permanent upgrades done. All right, on to day 4. Hey, I finally get an allowance. Master Simon, good morning. It has come to my attention that you have been granted a daily allowance to use while on the estate. If it is convenient for you, I will leave the required sum here in the entrance hall each morning. If there is anything else you require, please do not hesitate to ask. Even though we've all been requested to move ourselves from the premises during your stay, I can assure you that I am still personally overseeing the estate is at least operating at a baseline standard of service that I hope you will one day come to expect of us. Anne Babbage, House Manager. Okay, and just in case we get the trading post. Okay, much as I'd love to. Well, I mean, Week to Shelter, we just read through it, but I want Trading Post for get the coin. So, Trading Post. An outpost established on the outskirts of Mount Holly in the era before the New Realms. This station allowed the frontiersmen and trappers of these mountains to trade goods and services with the estate, the locals, and one another. So the New Realms, presumably, that means before the realms were split. So this is talking about Second Era at best. So this trading post has been around for a while. The other interpretation would be before the New Realms of Fenaries, which is weird because there's only the one new realm. Everything else is pretty well been established. All the Moravan realms seem to have been there since Third Era. So this would almost have to be referring to First Era, early Second Era. So this has been around for a while. Obviously, Mount Holly's been, here at Reddington, which was the site of the capital, so not a bad place for a trading post, really. Car keys, not bad. Coupon. I would rather have the magnifying glass. And what do we get for car keys, just so I know? A coupon book. All right. Little too dangerous to pick up. But I really want to cry anyway. And I didn't read the description before. You've been rewarded an allowance token. Your allowance has been permanently raised by 2. Now, the cool thing is, do not make allowances. This is part of a couple of theories, and there's people working on what this means, and is this verbiage part of some other message being given to us. There is a year, I can't read it here, but I can read it better in my notes. 1846, if I'm reading that correctly. Or 1876, one of the two. It's a little hard to read. Which puts it, timeline, I don't like getting things wrong. So 1876, which is an interesting time for this to be here. Not sure what the Roman numeral 2 there means. I've seen indications maybe that it's, especially with it having such shadow back there and almost looking black, that may be referring to something Second Era. I'm not sure that you can make a connection there in the year 1876, though, but... Okay, and I don't see anything else here to worry about yet, so... Alright, game. I need workshop. I also need schoolhouse, but we're past that. I don't like dining room this low. Nice! Diamondus Major. We have seen the slice, seen Diamondus Major, and the Farmer's Apple. We missed Diamondus Minor earlier. No, don't shrink it down. Come back. Sorry. Again, utility box, I have it common for a reason. Well, I have better access to a security card. Spare room is great there. Thank you. Hey, there we go, security. Fantastic. Okay. Now that we have access, okay, so we haven't connected since making the changes to Blackbridge yesterday, but I think after this that we shouldn't have to hear that sound for a while. We have electronic mail now. Okay, from Ann Babbage. Mr. Darren, if you have any more of those red and blue memo sheets, the Baron has requested a handful of each for a new project he's working on in the clock tower. For my part, I can't understand the life of me why you and the Baron continually insist on confounding my staff and every other person who stumbles upon one of your colored memos. I'm not confident confusion is the best security, but it's not my department, so I'll leave that up to you and the Baron. And Babbage. So that's November of 86, which puts it a year before the heist and just a few months before Mary goes missing, obviously. But at this point, well before anything else that is going on, Herbert is setting up the clock tower puzzle. Possibly already setting up a sanctum key, therefore, to be housed there. I don't know why he would set up a puzzle like that only for it not to already have something in it or not to have an idea of what he wants to put in it. So as early as now, what is that? 7 years in advance, he's setting up puzzles that will be used for Simon. He could already be planning on Simon being because we know that Daniel says, our son Simon, your heir. A year from now is when Daniel writes that letter. So Simon has already planned to be Herbert's heir, which, big surprise there. Herbert doesn't have any children of his own. He could go with one of the cousins in the family potentially, but the most direct person in line with him would be Simon. And so, but Simon is already being acknowledged and set up to be his heir, so it's possible as far back as November of 86, Herbert is setting up the Sanctum puzzle and is already laying the groundwork for all the things that Simon will be handed to deal with now. Now we're into January, just before Mary's disappearance. Mrs. Babbage, I'd like to address the one potential security vulnerability of having an antechamber lever in the weight room. As the years have gone by, the Baron's frequency of working out in this room has gone from once in a red moon to as rare as the man without self-pity. As such, we find this room mostly relegated to guest use, and given that, an antechamber lever is not only unsuited, but also poses a security risk. I advise we either remove or conceal it, and install a secondary lever to control the south entrance. Kirkdarren. So, number one, this is the first chronological mention of the antechamber levers. Obviously, they will have been in use for some time by now, but this is the first time you actually have a calendar date referring to the antechamber levers. Mr. Darren, sorry for the lagging reply. I'm still learning how to use this machine. Thanks for bringing this issue to our attention. This was not something I had considered, but it does seem like a reasonable suggestion, and I will discuss it with the Baron during our next meeting. I know he's expressed interest in installing secondary access levers for both redundancy and convenience, so this may be the perfect excuse to allow him to execute those plans should he still wish to do so. Ann Babbage. And now we come right up to the eve of Mary's disappearance. or not the actual eve, excuse me. But this is the eve of her security recordings. So the 10th is the last recording of Mary holding up the picture that we talked about, and this is Randolph.
Kirk, per our last meeting, effective immediately, please suspend all security camera recordings. Live surveillance has been approved, but the Baron no longer wishes to have the tape logs of activity on the estate. I know this might seem like a security risk, but I promise good reasoning is behind this seemingly unsound decision. Randolph Moore.
So again, this is stop recording things, because that's gonna, we need to not have any documented evidence of Mary's presence, but especially we need recordings to stop so that once Mary disappears and she's on the estate, they have a chance to start practicing the heist with the closed exhibit. They can do it at a time when there's nobody here, or when they can distract somebody in the security room, and overnight when most of the staff is asleep, etc. But if there's security recordings still happening of the manor, that poses a problem. Hence, stop all recordings now, well in advance of them actually starting to practice the heist. And that finishes that off. And let's see, while we're here, what do we got today? Ooh, that's gonna be fun. I mean, let's do the dice so we can get a little bit of flexibility. Okay. And, I guess since we talked about it, now it's as good a time as any to actually view these logs. So, 87, and these are the ones in question. There's nothing else in here until Simon joins the estate, and then you get to replay any cutscenes in the game. Obviously, if you haven't seen this, you see Herbert's will and testament, walking into security, that sort of thing. So any of the cutscenes, you have a chance to see him again. So this is February 9th. And as near as I can tell, that's Herbert in the back. He's certainly dressed appropriately. He looks like he's in a formal suit, which we always see Herbert wearing. White hair or bald. So I've seen the suggestion this could be Caleb Manning as well. I don't buy it. It just seems clearly to be Herbert, to me at least. But open to some interpretation there. Because we don't have enough definition. But so this, I would contend, is her working on what's going to go into a new clue, even if it's not a new clue yet, like we were talking about. And my suggestion here is they are looking for books that have, what they're building the XYZ ABC cipher. And so they're looking for, okay, we can use this book from this page that has that word there, so we can get that taken care of. So let's use that. So they're looking through the books trying to find the things. And so again, that is a direct connection to a new clue, which is what I think she's working on in all these. And of course, the entrance hall. Again, it sure as heck looks like Herbert. But it still could be a bald person. It's either white hair or reflection off a chrome dome. but he appears to be carrying a vase over to where it is housed in the entrance hall. Again, that's the vase he's headed toward that has the microchip connection to a new clue. And then the last one is the next day, so this is the date right before the security footage cuts out. And that is, of course, the train route outlined in a new clue based on the map. And like I said, so all the years between, footage not found. And here we have the parlor, that's Herbert's intro, the Blackbridge Grotto one we just did today, entering security, and then Alzara's first vision there. That's the only one I've seen so far. So, we have not seen servants' quarters yet. Not a great time with only one bedroom, but what the hell? Okay, so it's nice you can see all the different bedrooms. So if you were not aware of some of them, it's nice you can see them all listed there. Green memos in Hartley's room are always lies. Are they, though? 12 major keys, and that, again, subject of great debate. Shut up. No. Okay. This letter bears some talking about.
Hartley, I know we spoke often of this day, and I don't think there's anything I can say of the past 40 years that I haven't already attempted to tell you in numerous times in the past. Half-stated gratitude, always interrupted with tactful and polite repudiations from you. I had always known this final letter could give me the perfect opportunity to finally express myself uninterrupted by you and unfettered by social graces, but I don't feel the inclination to say aloud what has always been unsaid between us. With my passing, I'll release you from your post and service to the Sinclair family, and implore you to live the remainder of your years on your own terms, as scary and unfamiliar of a concept as that may be to you. Besides, I think a more junior valet would be better suited to meet the needs of young Master Simon. To that end, if you wish, you may stay on long enough to oversee his training and establishment of your successor in that post, but as soon as he or she has the lay of the land, my instructions for you to quit must be satisfied. Ignoring what I imagine your objections might be after reading this, I have decided to leave the lake house at Trinsdale to you and your family. My lawyers have all the details of the gift and will be contacting you shortly about the particulars. For the past 4 decades, you have served willingly as the subject and victim to many whims, to my many whims, games, and riddles, and so rest assured, unlike my nephew, you will not be put to yet another challenge to prove yourself worthy in this matter. The house is yours without strings or stipulations. I had, for a time, gleefully entertained the notion of employing Anne as the house manager of your new residence, but I knew the humor of such a prank would be entirely lost on you. to say nothing of her. Until we meet again, my friend, Herbert.
Now, there is a theory out there that Herbert was gay, and Hartley then presumably was also, and that the unspoken things said, things unsaid between them, etc., were feelings towards each other, etc. And I mentioned this in my lore video. Respectfully, I very much disagree with that interpretation, just because of the phrasing that we have here does not actually hint towards that, I don't think. Because he's talking about, I've tried to talk to you numerous times in the past, have stated gratitude, when, so it's the, oh, thank you, and he's being gratitude, and he's not talking about deeper emotions than that, he's just talking about gratitude and some feelings of friendship, and Herbert is trying to be polite, and like, no, you don't need to be thankful to me. He's like, I'm your servant, this is my job, etc. And so I don't doubt there's a good friendship between the two, but there's nothing in here that speaks of romantic interest in any way. And it's far more likely that it's just the social difference between a baron and a member of his staff. There's not a time in history where outright fraternization between the two and friendships and class system has not frowned upon that sort of friendship. And so he's been around long enough. He's literally known Herbert most of both of their lives at this point. And so it's just, he acknowledges that, we've been through a lot together. You've been the butt of my jokes and my experiments and my games and stuff. You've been through a lot. There has been this friendship between us, even though every time I try and say something about it, you're like, no, I'm just doing my job. And now I can finally say what I want to say. I want to say thank you. I want to say all these things, but I know you're just going to say, I don't even need to say it now. It doesn't need to be said. So I know there's some people out there who still probably have the beliefs that one or both of them was gay. And that's fine. I can't say that's false. I just don't find the evidence for that here or anywhere else in the game. But there's so much else in the game that, we just don't know for sure. I can't say for certain that they're not. But I don't see the evidence behind it. I think that's sort of some wishful thinking on some people to have that sort of relationship in a game like this. I think they're looking for something that isn't there, though. And then since we're doing the Blackbridge log admin stuff today, I mean, we've already seen, we were talking about it earlier. So,
Mr. Rota, Mrs. Babbage told me that you'll be overseeing network maintenance over the past few weeks while I will be gone, and I apologize in advance for the extra workload. I believe I will be back in Reddington by the middle of February, but even that is not a certainty. Either way, I do not anticipate there'll be any major issues while I'm gone, as the difficulties we were having last month with the terminal connections seem to be resolved, so we already talked about all this. If there's an emergency and you find yourself having to enter the central server site, I have set you up with the temporary admin key to allow you access the network administrative controls. Admin key is the first four letters of your last name, followed by your first initial. First and fifth character should be capitalized. If you have any questions, please let me know in the next few days before my departure. Rendolph. So this, of course, is how most people, myself included, figure out what the login is. The structure of the login, rather.
Let's turn with the pantry. West Wing is probably the best way to go, but I think we're not going to get locked entirely by that spare room, so I think I'm going to go Nursery so we can check this one off. It does not have a gem for us, which it usually does. We have already read the red prints, so... Bedrooms. The Nursery. One of the few rooms you vividly remember from your visits here in your youth, though even at that time you remember feeling a little old for the activities provided here. The twin cribs found in this room might suggest that at one point there had been some hopeful expectations of a sudden growth in the family tree. There's people who have picked this room apart counting the stars. I don't remember the numbers. I want to say like it's 122 or something like that. I forget. There's some significance people have drawn with the number of stars in this room. I don't remember off the top of my head what it is. Trogdor the Burninator, I think. It's fun that he's in this world too. Let's try here. There we go. Hello. And since we're here and we actually have the car keys. Okay. This is Bridget's handwriting. The drop-off address is 14227 Sandy Heights, a small garage on the south edge of Trinsdale. The goods are already secure and in the trunk, so it's just unload and get back here before noon. I've seen Sinclair's schedule, and I don't think he'll be requesting the car today, but you never know when the cat will want to get some air. Tomorrow would likely be the last delivery, and I believe Denny already has payment ready. So this is the moonshine operation in full swing at this point. But I think this is getting towards the end of things. Obviously, since the bottles are still here, it's possible this is the deal in Reddington that fell apart that sort of helped put the kibosh on things. Gotta use these when you can. Alright, so that is the upgrade disc for garage. Spare room! Okay. I've always wanted to try out spare hall and, the stuff you can get out of it, but I find spare green room to just be way too useful. So we're going spare green room. Now, since we have an upgrade disc, we can talk about a little bit about the spare room upgrades, which have thought about, or we've talked a little bit about the existence of, so the spare room description, which we already original, I don't have the description now in front of me, but I think it was unfurnished and unfinished and otherwise unremarkable empty room. Now, each of the colors you do changes that a little bit. So the spare bedroom, the few strokes of violet paint were applied before the abandonment of this project seemed to imply this room's intended use as a bedroom. Spare green room, an unfinished, blah, blah, blah. The few potted plants scattered throughout this empty space complement the few strokes of green paint that were haphazardly applied to one of this room's unfinished walls. And the spare hall, an unfurnished, unfinished, blah, blah, blah. The few strokes of orange paint and a few unused rolls of rather familiar wallpaper seem to imply this room's intended use as a hallway. Now, when you upgrade this for the second time and pick spare terrace, spare great hall, whatever option you pick, the description here doesn't change. So if I pick a spare veranda, it's still going to say the potted plants scattered about this place, than what you see right now. The one difference, the one that's different, is if you do her ladyship's spare room. And for that one, it says, assuming that one day she would no longer be content confining herself entirely to the west wing of the house, one of the planned uses of the spare room was to serve as a secondary sleeping quarters for Lady Clara Epson. Perhaps here she can finally get the good night's sleep she had been searching for. So, direct reference to her sleep diary and kind of a cool tie-in, but that's the only one of the second level upgrades that actually changes the description of the room. It gives us some possibilities here.
Let's see, checking some things off as we go. Just, we've done the music room, locker room, wine cellar, trophy room, ballroom, vault, no study. Still haven't got to the library, seriously? Chamber mirrors, drafting studio, pump room, workshop. Did we not have the workshop yet at all? Okay. Mailroom, freezer, Conference Aquarium, Antechamber 46, okay. Weight room, furnace, we've talked about now officially. East Wing Hall, no. Passageway, I didn't read the passageway yesterday, sorry. Forgot we hadn't done that one. We're about to do foyer. Okay. Okay, sorry. Something happened with one of my connections. I'm making sure I'm still streaming here. I think I'm still good. Okay, yeah, that's her stream, not mine. Okay.
All right, so the foyer. Or foyer. The grand baroque hall of Mount Holly is impressive to behold. This ornamented passage is flanked with marble pillars and features bust statues of the more prominent figures of the Sinclair family legacy. So the foyer was on Arve's draft table, or in the atelier part of her studio there, to be drafted, and had places for the busts marked out, so the plan was always there for them, but the foyer is not part of her, nope, hold on, I clicked the wrong thing. Is not part of the rough draft of the manor. But she was obviously planning on it as far back as when she was drafting the manor. Oh no, I'm sorry, foyer is, disregard that, brain fart. So it is there, and I even have it in my statues. Sorry, this is why I should always check these things before I say it out loud, because I think mostly about it being there on her table with the pieces marked. But yeah, it is there, and it has the same statues, I think, or they're empty. Crap! Now I can't remember what it looks like. I will put a note up here about what's actually there to confirm, and I apologize for this. But so we have Lord William Epson, Mary's grandfather on the Epson side, obviously. Baron Thomas Sinclair, Mary's grandfather on the Sinclair side. Major Nicholas Keyes. There's a bust like this one, identical to this one, in the Atelier entrance hall, and I think it's the one on the left side. Hey, Dred's finally here. I guess we count this as being on today's date. So I believe this is the one on the left side of the entrance hall, and the fact that this entrance hall has William Epson and Thomas Sinclair, Mary's grandparents. The Atelier entrance hall has Major Key and Count Gates on it. And so where are they in the family line, because neither of them is a Sinclair. So the question then is, are they Arave's ancestors? And that's why they're in the entrance hall of her rough draft. Speculation, we don't know, but it's interesting that's who's there. And then, as I said, we talked earlier about Edwin probably being Tomas's father, which would put these two in the same generation, perhaps, as him. Where does she come in? My theory, and until I have, and I'm not 100% sold on this, just because I tend to not be certain about anything that's not proven, but my running theory is that the second child of House Ares, who was given Araja to rule in Second Era Arindia, changed her name, or took the name Jeari, meaning out of Ares, or out of the family, or out of the land, but a J meaning out of, Ari, Ares, and then Yenna means ruler, so this is Queen Jeari, and so she took that name. So this is someone in the Jeari line of the matriarchal rule of Araja is in the bloodline, possibly Araves, possibly, one of a Sinclair's ancestor, but that's because this is theoretically prominent figures of the Sinclair family legacy. So, which casts a little bit of doubt that Isaac Gates and Major Key are Arave's ancestors, except that Arave had Simon and Herbert, so these are their ancestors as well. So, anyway, the hand statues always point to important things, and we haven't really made a big deal of them yet, but the fact that these two point to each other, I saw someone in the Sanctum chat yesterday or today make the point that they're probably self-referential, saying this one's pointing to that one's pointing to this one, saying, look, hand statues point to important things. They point to each other. They're important. This is to get you to identify that hand statues are important, and they point to important things, like themselves. That's as good as an interpretation as any I've seen, because nothing different has ever been found to my knowledge about drafting out this door, no matter where you go, what you do afterwards. So, oh, let's see. What can we do today? Music room's not bad. We're obviously not in a position to use the Sanctum key. I'm in the mood for the veranda, though. And I don't think we read it before. This relaxing breezeway serves as an ideal spot for rocking chairs and lemonade. And yeah, I would absolutely love to sit on this chair and just chill and overlook that view and drink some nice, iced, cool lemonade. That just sounds like a hell of a way to spend an hour or two just chilling out here. I love that idea. Workshop. Passageway's fine. And we didn't read this before. It's a simple one, though. A long, cramped series of unfinished passages used primarily by the servant staff to traverse the estate quickly. Fairly straightforward. It's all unlocked, which makes it quite desirable up this high in the house, so it's worth the 2 gems to do it. Passageway is done. And we did the Great Hall yesterday, even if we didn't really do much with it. Okay. Oh, hey, yeah. I'm okay with that. Don't see anything in there right away that would lead me to need to go in there. We have not done the aquarium yet. Yes, lots of steps to work with. Ooh. Okay, let's talk about the aquarium. In addition to having a bouquet of colorful fish swimming within them, each tank in the aquarium is also inspired by the decor and colors of the various types of rooms found throughout the estate, including 1 or 2 red herrings. So, the only thing interesting I find about this whole setup is that there is not a blue or black layout in here. So, those 2 are missing from this setup, whatever else you think about it. Obviously, when you drain the water, you see the X in front of the patio that we've already dug up. Green room. You see nothing in this room. The orange one, which I think is that the hallway? I forget. But it's an orange room in general. And then you see the X in front of the laundry room. Laundromat machine there. You see the arrow pointing into the archives, and I have seen him referred to as business fish. And then the bedroom, of course, is not a red herring, because there is something special buried here. It's just not shown here and not shown when you drain the room. But the fact that it's here is your indication there is something special buried in the bedroom, and when you get the treasure map and dig it up, that's how you find the Baron Bafflers, which we will try to do, if it's convenient, as part of our completionist run here. Planetarium, I don't have a particular need to do that. I don't need anything specific that a redraw would help me with, though, either. So, sure, let's do Planetarium. And if we need a place to call it a day. Planetarium, a circular theater featuring a dome-shaped projection screen upon which scenes of the stars and galaxies allow viewers to experience the splendor of the heavens. Obviously, the lesser-known interaction here, most people have to have it pointed out to them by some chat. As a helper, I've seen 1 or 2 people stumble upon it naturally, where if you bring the telescope in here, then you have to do it on 5 separate occasions, and we'll be doing that. But that's how you get the upgrades for this room, 1 for each planet, and it brings all sorts of nice goodies in here. The star schedule is important to know and have noted down somewhere for any time you're worried about completion and figuring out what constellation is going to be around the next day, especially for if you're trying a dead-end strategy with Draxus or Southern Cross to open up the Ares Court. So this is a nice thing to have noted down, and it's the first time you find out, probably the first time you find out, that a new constellation at 50. The blue tent memo for Planetarium is that the Inkwell is not the largest constellation. So that is your first clue that there's something beyond the one that this thing is telling you about without even naming it. So that's not the biggest one. Spiral of Stars. It's useful, it's creative, it's interesting, and it's such a pain in the butt. Okay, now we mostly need to work our way back down towards the Foundation. I'm more interested in going via the Passageway, just in case. The drafting studio. As an architect and engineer, it was not uncommon to find your great uncle spending the better part of his weekends here, at a drafting table with T-square and compass in hand. Over half of the floor plans of Mount Holly were conceptualized, refined, and drafted in this studio. So this presumably replaced the atelier proper as the place where new floor plans were drafted. Now, it doesn't say Herbert created over half the floor plans of Mount Holly in this room. It just says over half the floor plans of Mount Holly were conceptualized, refined, and drafted in this studio. So this very well could have been written by Orave and been used by her as a drafting studio, and then Herbert also came and worked in here after his mother passed away, or while she was alive even, who knows. But it doesn't say Herbert drafted half of them in this room, just that half of them were planned here. Obviously, 46-ish rooms were drafted originally as part of the rough draft of Mount Holly, and there are 110 rooms total, minus 8 outer rooms, there's 102. So 46 rooms in the rough draft. Another 46 would bring us to 92. And so there's 10 more rooms that were drafted probably from not necessarily here. But I mean, the outer rooms obviously could have been drafted, probably weren't drafted from the atelier, but were drafted after the fact, so the outer rooms may have been drafted here, and then some of those other 10 were almost certainly drafted here. We also know that some rooms were drafted and done in the study by Herbert, and we'll get to that when we get to that room, but any of the rooms that he made in that room were always blue in honor of his mother. And so not everything was drafted here. Some blue rooms for sure were drafted in the study, apparently. Okay. For moving about, as much as I would love the clock tower and early access to Sanctum Key, etc., for moving about purposes, the kennel is the best option to choose, I think. Home to several of Sinclair's hunting companions, it can be assumed these friendly hounds have been anxious to meet their new master. Do I do. Ha ha ha! Oh. Now this one, I saw someone solve this. The first time they came in here, they didn't put together the calendar, which is obviously, it's a November calendar page, and there are 8 small gates in the picture. So if you count the small gates, there's 8. Crack the safe. But he tried his birthday. It didn't work. The next day he came back. He tried his brother's birthday. His brother's birthday is August 11th. So it's 8/11. And since the dates allow both formats, month, day, and day, month, it opened it up even though the actual date is November 8th. So it's funny sometimes how these work. He obviously wasn't expecting it to open and didn't know why it opened, but it did. Uncle, in a few hours we're departing. As planned, we will be taking the old mountain way tunnels to the north. We'll go as far as we can by trolley. Hold on, I'm going to pull this up in my notes because they're easier to read. In a few hours we're departing. As planned, we'll be taking the old mountain way tunnels to the north. We'll go as far as we can by trolley until the rails give out. Then we'll proceed on foot until we reach the southern border. I've never been as excited, nervous, and heartbroken. I may never know if I've made the right decisions, but I've made the ones I felt my father might have nodded in approval at. I'm leaving a message for Simon here in the safe house, this unhallowed cavern that we've called home for the last year. If something should happen to me, please guide him to this place. Try to show him what those lost days were all for. Explain to him, if you can, the intersection between foolishness and doctrine. The thin wire we stood upon above the world, holding hands and throwing stones. Holding hands and throwing stones. In those days, we were guilty of everything. As always, Mary. Okay, we are in the drafting studio. Oh, if we get a great haul, this is what it looks like today, which is good to note. Top left and bottom right are going to have the goodies. Bottom left, top right are going to access the side doors. So top left, bottom right are the ones I really want to remember. All right, Drafting Strategies, Volume 1. The drafting spectrum. Blueprints are more than just blue. It should come as no surprise that the first color that comes to mind when speaking about blueprints is blue. And while it is true most architectural plans and designs are found on blue paper, it is not the only color on which floor plans are drafted. In fact, originally they were not blue at all. Hundreds of years ago, the chemicals used to create floor plans caused coated paper to turn black when exposed to light. This raven hue, perhaps more fitting to the reign of Horus, was decidedly more difficult to affix an architect's revision edits to, and so blue was proposed as an ideal replacement as it had no political ties to any other realms. By the Fourth Era, all floor plans were being printed on blue paper. Over the years, the fear of political connotation deferred to innovation, and the use of colored prints eventually became popular with engineers and architects who use hues as a way to differentiate between types of buildings and rooms. Violet prints, for example, are only used when creating plans for a bedroom, while an orange floor plan will immediately inform a contractor that the print contains designs for a hallway. In this issue of Drafting Strategy, we will explore the different features of each type of floor plan and look at the underlying connections that tie each room to its color. Most violent dreams. The bedroom is often referred to as the heart of the home, and with good reason. It is the place where people can rest during a long day, where they can kick up their feet for a bit and recharge their batteries. Architects always use violet bordered floor plans for bedrooms, and the comforting purple hues encountered while drafting will usually let a weary traveler know they have found a room in which they can rest up. Architects may wish to utilize bedroom strategies if they're the type who love to explore and backtrack frequently. Having an excess of steps usually affords bedroom enthusiasts the ability to be more carefree with their plans for the day. Obviously, then it tells you a little bit about them and some of the inner workings. I don't think there's anything special about the draft of the bedroom here, but that obviously is the bedroom. It's proper. Indoor verdure. Green rooms are a wonderful way to bring the outdoors inside and provide a breath of fresh air for the home. The abundance of plant life, rich soil, and natural resources in these spaces makes them extremely appealing for architects who enjoy gardening and open spaces. These floor plans are extremely synergistic, and strategies centered around green will often involve drafting as many of this color as possible. The more green rooms you're able to draft in your house, the more powerful their effects will become. Additionally, these spaces are more likely than other types of rooms to contain piles of dirt for digging. Green rooms, I love green room strategies. That's one of my most common ways of moving about the house. And obviously the room depicted there is the greenhouse. Orange passage. If the bedroom is the heart of the home, then the hallways are the arteries, serving as diverging paths that branch out to connect different parts of the house and lead visitors to their intended destination. While these orange corridors are often overlooked as one travels through them, they are a vital component of any house. The numerous doors found in each hall provide the means to add more rooms to your house, and the more hallways you have, the less likely you are to draft yourself into a dead end. Hallway strategies are ideal for architects who prefer more rooms and flexible options for expansion over pure resources. Golden trim. Shops are an essential part of any large estate, providing a convenient place for the staff and residents to purchase items without having to leave the property. Including at least one of these floor plans in your house will provide you with an outlet for any coins that are found during the day. Strategies that involve generating lots of gold will usually want to draft multiple shop rooms to expand the range of shopping opportunities. These floor plans are bordered with shades of gold, enhancing the sense of luxury and refinement in the shopping experience. Whether it's a quick snack or a high-end fashion item, having a well-placed shop within the estate can greatly enhance the quality of life for the entire household. And that's the bookshop, of course. Negative space. Red rooms are a daring addition to any home, providing a small element of danger that can excite and thrill both residents and visitors. While these rooms come with a certain level of risk, they also offer the potential for substantial returns, as they provide as many doors as they do opportunities, not counting the frickin' furnace. Architects who are willing to take the plunge and draft a red room are often rewarded with a unique and striking space that leaves the lasting impression on those who enter. Just like in life, taking risks can be intimidating, but those who dare to venture outside their comfort zone can reap the greatest rewards. Prismatic rooms. You may, on rare occasion, notice some floor plans that have more than one color in their design. These rooms are unique in that they simultaneously share all the characteristics of each type of room associated with those colors. For example, a floor plan with a violet and gold border would be best described as a bedroom shop, while an orange and green one might contain a corridor of greenery and plants. The aquarium is a very useful, multicolored floor plan as it supports all of the color-based strategies listed in the volume. For example, it can give you bonus steps for having a nursery as well as being unlocked by having a foyer. Maybe bedroom shop just means it's a place to buy new mattresses. Let's keep it clean, I guess. Word from the editor. As we reach the end of this volume of drafting strategy, we hope you found valuable insights and colorful inspiration for your next architectural project. From the purples of our dreams to the reds of our fears, we believe that no ambition for an architect is too brave and no design is too colorful. To achieve our goals, we must delve deep into the spectrum, drawing upon all colors and ideas of daring merit. At the end of the day, color is just another tool. Some wield it to express their own creativity. Some hoist it up as a display of their own power. Some use it to calculate great sums. But all of us want to find a color we can call our own. I think that's about it. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Done. Okay, Yeah, might as well head down through the aquarium. And get mostly nowhere. Fantastic. Yeah, might as well. Another Alzara vision. Anything else? No other goodies. Sad. Alright, hit me up, Alzara. What you got, buddy?
And, as it was foretold, I am awakened at the sound of a dropping coin. You find yourself face to face with the great Alzara. And I suspect you wish me to look into your future. The image is becoming clear. I see the darkened cloud of ruin, familiar to us both, now decrepit, run down, and in disrepair. I see 8 red envelopes, resting upon 8 pedestals. And in these 8 envelopes, I see 8 letters penned by 8 different hands. 8 letters of which you will only ever find and read 7. Just like the art hanging on the walls of these rooms, there is a letter missing. What you have heard here has been foreseen by the great Alzara. Until the dawn of the following day, I will have nothing more to say.
Wonderfully non-cryptic, isn't it? That one, it's kind of hard to... I don't really have a solid grasp on that one yet, I don't think. It's certainly nothing I could talk about off the cuff. That sounds like a great idea right now. Okay, salt shaker. Whenever you eat food and gain steps, gain an extra step. A glass salt shaker, specifically. We've now held a salt shaker. And we are having stuffed wild quail. This is wrong. I forgot to read the description of it. Damn. I gotta be a bit better about that. Alright, well, all the ideas I had and plans are all pretty much going out the window here, so thanks to RNG. Happens. Because I was also hoping if I couldn't find a workshop, maybe I could come back down and around up the east side there for a greenhouse. Yep. I mean, I only have so many options that turn certain ways, so... What in the ever... What do you expect me to do with this game? I can't re-roll anything now. There's nowhere to roll. Nowhere to draft. I've already done a kitchen. What do you got for me in the closet? Alright, let's go up to the planetarium, call it a day. So we got a lot done. Obviously not ending quite the way I had hoped. There were things I was trying to get done all day long and just... Doesn't do me any good if I can't get a workshop. try for one more day here. See what we can get. Okay. Should not need these again, but... Okay. I think it's about time to do a shrine blessing. Which one should we do? We have 4 coins. Or we do shelter. Let's do shelter. Day 5, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. Go through our emails. And actually... See, no screechy noise. Emails from the shelter, which works well with all the other things that we've been talking about so far in today's runs. Alright. From Randolph. This is the first one in there, but obviously he's responding to an email prior to this that we never get to see. But note the date is February 22nd, so this is the day after your mother's disappearance. She officially disappeared on February 21st, last seen in Trinsdale at the 100 Bells Tea Room. This is the very next day. Emailing from Randolph.
Yes, and don't worry, this communication method is fully secure. I'm the only lab technician with network access, and the only one who uses this terminal. I'm working to get you some supplies, but I'm not focusing on this essentials as I believe there's enough food in the shelter to last for the duration, though I think it'd be wise if you could do a quick inventory to confirm this.
In terms of area, there's not nearly as much room here as I remembered from my youth, so this is obviously Mary talking at this point. If it was just me, I wouldn't mind, but with 4 of us, and the space we're going to need for planning, I don't expect this to be a sustainable situation for more than a week, a fortnight at best. So the original plan was probably to use the shelter as their staging area and for planning. But literally 3 to 4 people in there for the months on end, though, not viable.
I pass on the message, and your uncle says you may have an idea for a more long-term solution, but it's going to require some doing. I'm not sure exactly what he has in mind, but this morning when I looked at today's blueprints, I saw he had drafted the pump room, a floor plan I haven't seen used in a very, very long time. I have a feeling you'll be made to be taking a boat ride shortly.
And now, about a week after her disappearance, the next day the Red Guard shows up after this.
It's finally happening. We just got confirmation from our source that the Red Guard's coming tomorrow to begin their formal inquiry into the disappearance. At this point, it's going to be too risky to move you until next week at the earliest. Just hang tight for now.
And that's all we get from the shelter emails. So this is all setting up them being here and then before they are transported to the safe house. Now this one throws people off a little bit, and I think it's more of a intent versus what the final thing ended up looking like, the final plan. And this is presumably Herbert. Could be Randolph though. So, but it sounds more like Herbert from the second paragraph, so.
Remain where you are for now. Given that the Red Guard is due tomorrow, we have agreed with your plan and have disabled remote access to the other terminals and have sealed the network mainframe. Regardless of the danger, I am still not willing to risk removing the shelter from the draft pool while the three of you are down there. Our best bet is to sit tight and hope for a little bit of luck.
Now, most people, when they read the three of you down there, they assume, if they don't know about the heist yet, most people that I've seen play tend to think it's Mary, Daniel, and Simon. If they know about the heist, then the assumption that it's Mary, Philip White, and Caleb Manning. But the admin logs we looked at earlier show that Caleb Manning is not with them. Because if you look at the timeline, this is right after Mary's disappearance, obviously, and this is now a week afterwards, if we're talking the Red Guard showing up the next day. Now that the Red Guard's on the estate and checking things out formally, they are not going to be drafting this room to get Caleb out of there. Too risky. So they would just be, if Caleb was here, they would just be sitting pat. And then all of a sudden, we see the admin logs that we talked about, where Randolph is setting up admin logs in a couple of days now. On the 2nd of March, he sets up the admin logs for Mary and Philip, or Paul Withers and Gene Ribbon. No mention of Caleb whatsoever. And at that point, they're already and then a couple of days after that, they're talking about getting the file from Manning. So Caleb Manning's not there with them. He's off somewhere else. He is in Iraja, arranging for whatever file it is they need. So the third person, either the plan was for Caleb or someone to be in here with Mary and Philip, or the third person here was Faro, the only other person we know of who is definitely part of the heist itself. We don't know anything about this person. We don't know gender. We don't know a second name, but we know Faro, so it's possible Faro was here with them. It's also possible the plan was originally for Caleb to be here, and then they thought better of it for some reason. So, I don't view as gospel him saying the three of you down there. But it is possible that the third person is Faro, if it's anybody. Because it's unlikely, at least, that Caleb was here, and then with the Red Guard potentially showing up anytime, any day, for any duration of time, that they would risk drafting this just to get Caleb out of there, and then what? Reset the whole house? Just to make sure the outer room is reset? So that the shelter's no longer visible? Really, 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 really risky. So I don't think they did it that way. It makes a lot more sense that this is potentially Faro, or just the plan changed and this letter was already written and sent down there. So, or they got Caleb out right before that. So, I mean, there's any number of possibilities there, but I don't think that, I really, really don't think that Caleb was down here during the duration that those emails were being sent, for instance. And of course, here we have the picture of Trinsdale Lake, or not Trinsdale Lake, excuse me, but just a nice lake with a bird. Okay, and we will come back in a little while, because I don't know if we wasted enough time to make it to 10 a.m. If we're close, I may just kill a couple of minutes here. It's only 9:15. I'll do some early rooms here. Ooh, okay. Breakfast nook is great. Gives me the morning room again. I don't want to use all my gems on the Cloister, but it's an allowance coin. And we should be good on green rooms for a while, so actually if I draft a patio later, that could be, I could get all my gems back. Okay. Let's dig this up and talk about the cloister. First visit here, if you come and that you are get access to the inner garth. Obviously, you'd find out about that if you don't stumble across it by accident like I did. The note that teaches you how to get in here is in the solarium, and because the new groundskeeper Robert Nagula has a hard time getting in here and can never remember how to do it, so Bridget helpfully writes down the instructions for him. And so Anne Babbage leaves this, presumably for Nagula, who never ever made it back in here to get his coin. Mr. Nagula, if you're reading this, it seems the day has finally come, and the cloister is at long last getting some much overdue maintenance. I have left you a literal token of appreciation to serve as positive reinforcement, which should grant you a bit of extra spending money each day while working on the estate. We have learned from our dealings with your predecessor that it is much cheaper in the long run to be generous. Mrs. Babbage. Well, his predecessor obviously was Denny Ravain, which we have not gone into Denny's role in things much yet. Obviously, it's on the to-do list someday. That is locked off. I have security, but I need the utility closet now, please, game. Turnip. Fantastic. More turnip. And some money. Okay, now I have money to afford, that's the word I was intending to say, a magnifying glass if I need it. That's locked. Murph. Okay. Back to security and the courtyard. I do need pump room. Oh, that's the one thing I still need boiler room for. Completely forgot about that the other day. I didn't have pool anyways, it didn't matter. Alright, well, first things first, the pump room. This facility, dedicated to the filtration and flow of water throughout the estate, houses 5 water pumps and 3 oversized tanks. The pump room can be utilized for a number of maintenance tasks, from draining the pool to activating the sprinkler system. Now, we've seen this mentioned in the emails and in the rough draft of the red prints that of New Clue, where the pump room was removed from the draft pool for a while to prevent Detective Von Margle from discovering the existence of the safe house. And so this is obviously one of the 22 rooms that he was still missing when he was out and about on the estate. The pump room has been in existence since the rough draft of the house. And so it was around and then pulled. I don't know. Obviously, when it was first created, it probably would not have had anything to do with the boiler room connections with the ducts, because there wasn't a boiler room with the rough draft of the house. And so maybe they had planned on one, so but if you go into the rough draft, obviously, I don't think they took out the connection here, which is a little bit of a potential, discrepancy, that they added the duct system for something that didn't exist yet. But oh well, because the boiler room is not part of the rough draft and was built after the house itself was built, because they used the addition of the boiler room and the steam power to power the foundation elevator and other things around the house to make the excavation process go more smoothly. The blue tent memo for the boiler room. The massive reservoir below Mount Holly receives a natural filtration from the continuous flow of fresh water from 2 neighboring underground springs, before making its dramatic exit via waterfall on the south-facing cliff. So when you look outside from the west path, or for anywhere outside, you can see the waterfall off in the distance, of course. That is where the west spring comes out. So the west spring starts next to the outer room, goes into the manor and under the manor to help fill the reservoir, and then back out again via the waterfall. Now, we don't know where the other spring is. So, let's see. So now I need to either drain the reservoir or the pump. I don't have access yet to 46 or the antechamber rather, but I might today with having a greenhouse. So for the moment, I'm going to set it up to drain the fountain, and then if I need to, before the end of the day, I may come back and adjust it for the boat. We'll see.
So let's set it up. We need to drain all the fountain out, so we're going to put you going in, you coming out, and we need to fill the kitchen. And drain the fountain. Both sides. Fill the kitchen again. Fill the pool. Drain the fountain again. Switch.
And one last hit on the greenhouse. Alright, greenhouse is now producing green flowers, so if we went back up there, I don't know if it would automatically start producing flowers, like if they would be there right now. But if you look at the description, the gardener should be pleased that the long-neglected flower beds have finally been blessed with the glistening gift from the sprinklers installed above. So that literally changed right when we added water to fill up the greenhouse, so that it's no longer saying that they're dry and useless. And we talked about it the other day when we first got the greenhouse, but the greenhouse, the original, when it's dry, it says the gardener, however, should be scolded, for the soil here is dry and the flower beds are devoid of all signs of life. So that description of the room literally just changed when we added water to it. So one of the little tiny things that it's easy to miss if you don't read the directories and then pay attention and come back and read them later. I sure as hell didn't realize it until I saw it somewhere else. So, all right, where are we going now? We're going north. No, we're not.
All the way back down. And that's the game sometimes. We're gonna go here. No. How about over here? No. Yes. And it's a battery.
Okay. We're doing things now. Contraptions. Power hammer. The manor will come to fear my power hammer powers. A stronger sledgehammer that can also knock down weaker brick walls. The physics of this just don't. Okay, now I need a metal detector as well. That'd be fantastic. Game. I'm okay with the library. Open book. We can start requesting books now. My first library. 2 stories of wall-to-wall books surround the reader in this room, exhibiting either a bountiful spring of knowledge or typical interior design sensibilities of the wealthy. A few books have been withdrawn from the shelves and placed on rostrum stands in various corners of the library. So, library, of course, is the only way you can draft the bookshop, which wouldn't do me a whole lot of good today because I don't have any money left over. The blue tent memo for the library is if you have a hall pass, bookshop will be more likely to be drawn while drafting in the library. So another way to help increase the likelihood you get the bookshop, because it's rare to show up. Even coming out of the library, it's not that common of a draft, and I'm going to need it a few times. So if I ever find myself in possession of a hall pass, this would be the place to go use it, and while I've got it. Dining room it is. Although, I shouldn't, if I'm going to get down, if I can get down underground, well, actually, I mean, I don't need to. I'm going to get underground right now anyway. I'm not worried, so I'm not worried about using that lever to access the north side of the antechamber, because I have the hammer, which means I'm going down underground and I'm going to start bashing things no matter what. So I don't need that right now. If I didn't have the hammer, that would be amazing right now. But right now, nothing else. I need the steps. All right, wood-fired pizza. Now this time I'll actually remember to read the description before I eat it. Pizza. Summer truffle sauce smothered in fontina cheese, wild mushrooms, and spiced salami, cooked to perfection with just the right amount of char. That sounds delicious. Really, that sounds just amazing right now. Okay, now that room I'm not going to touch. Although if it's locked. Okay, good. All right, leave it alone. I have a space to use the secret garden key if I find one on my path. But with those steps from the dining room, I shouldn't need you know, I shouldn't need to worry too much about what's going on. You were standing there all along. All right, we got more things to do.
This is one of those days that just doesn't end. Burning glass. Fan-bloody-tastic. Pick it up, don't be a dread. Said with all love. Okay, we'll hit the chapel. I'm not too worried about raising hand-wise up. I'm not going to use them anytime real soon, so if I don't do the chapel, if I check the workshop, if I check the burning glass, we'll see. Okay, kitchen. Might as well buy some steps. 2 gold off. It's okay. I got cheap bananas. Okay, here we go. We're gonna start going outside and doing things. I still need to get into the antechamber. But while we've got it, we're gonna go burn us a thing and get a satellite dish. Alright, schoolhouse is still the one blue flame I don't have yet. Otherwise, I would love to bash down the castle thing as well.
Let there be Dish Network. Okay, permanent upgrades. Done. Can close that window down because blue tents will fill itself in when I actually buy it. The satellite dish has been permanently unlocked and added to your campsite. New experimental data packets can now be uploaded to the laboratory, good lord, from Cinca, and inbound electronic mail and communications from offsite will no longer be blocked. I don't want these left here. Okay. It's one thing done. I don't know why I'm doing that. Tunnel! Alright, the Scripps and Rudford Mining Company Excavation Department Foreman's Log number 621. So this is June of 1918, which is fairly late. This is not too long before they close up shop, actually. So this is 1918 on the timeline. So this is actually the last Foreman's Log from all the ones that you can find. Excuse me.
A complete manifest on all excavation equipment has been rigorously checked and delivered to the upper branch. After tomorrow, the site will be sealed and all remaining hardware will be packed up and transported to the original access tunnel for long-term storage. It's unclear if they'll also seal the tunnel after our crew's left, but I suspect they want to keep ready access to the gear, especially now they've begun operations in the East Mine. A month ago, I believe the discovery of gemstones in that cavern was directly linked to the closure of this site, but now I'm not so sure. A baron doesn't seem the type to value shiny baubles over history.
Indeed, he's not. And that Baron, of course, is referring to Thomas Sinclair, Herbert's father. And now that we've done that, we're going here. This is actually reminding me of the day I had the first time I made it down here at a similar hour of the morning, in fact, and just kept finding stuff and had more to do, and including solving this place, and I think I may have even gotten the tunnel that day. Scripts and Rub for mining code, the patent for the high pressure condenser, so this is the red box in the boiler room that connects down here below. Foreman's log 281, so this is now May of 1917, so this is the prior year, almost a year before that last log.
The excavation progress is going smoothly and crew spirits are higher than they've been in weeks. I believe this increase in morale is in no small part due to the installation of the boiler, which has honestly been a godsend. We now have steam power and no longer have to rely on raw muscle to scrape and heave at the clay like dogs. The new steam-powered hoists and winches are fully operational, and we've been able to unearth over 5 times as much sediment per shift as we had previously excavating.
So that, again, that's telling you that's the boiler room that he's talking about. So, as I said before, the boiler room was not part of the original draft of the house. So the pump room was kind of on its own, among everything else. But, so, this is, 4 years after the manor was originally completed, I think, was 1913. Yeah, November of 1913 was when the rough draft was first completed, and the manor as a whole really was came into being. And so 4 years later, they finally got a boiler room, and the winch in the foundation then became available, and any of the other steam-powered options greatly enhanced their ability to do the excavations. Okay, power sledge all walls. We have now done... I need to still go back and do the greenhouse. Sealed entrance and basement, technically, are those two. Thank you. Lost and found, added to the draft pool.
Yeah, saw this for the first time at 1, 2 something in the morning, and if you go back and you watch my original run through day 1 through day 46 series, I was so freaking tired trying to do this, and I just wanted it to end, but there was just more to do, and I just kept going and going and going. And I got down here, and I don't think I had moved the minecart yet, so I couldn't go all the way to the sanctum. But I made it down underneath, and got to the gear puzzle, and I was like, I can't do anything with this now. I think I got may have gotten the Mechanarium or something available, but I couldn't obviously progress all the way in. And then I think within a couple of days, I got the tomb for the first time, or solved the tomb at least. I may have already had it before, I don't know. But solved the tomb for the first time, made it downstairs, and was able to finally make progress on getting to 46 proper. And by now I've solved this thing so many times, I could do it in my sleep. I did see somebody solve this without moving that box, this pallet of crates back. They moved that one over there, and were able to connect from here across to this middle column over there, and then get on this box pallet here and across. So, save them a little bit of time. They didn't know that, because it was their first time doing it, but I was impressed that they pulled it off. I was expecting them to fall, and then have to redo some stuff.
Alright, we have the little note in our mother's handwriting. 100 Bells Tea Room, card, Sandy Heights, 5 p.m. The two possible interpretations are that's where she was going after having been picked up at the 100 Bells, and she gave them, maybe gave the driver that and just had, to get there, or this was just some sort of meetup indication, because Sandy Heights is on the south side of Trinsdale. It's sort of like a warehouse district, I think, is the indication we have. That's where we know, like, the moonshine drop-off is in the Sandy Heights area. Or this is another attempt at throwing off timelines of when she was available and where she was and that sort of thing. That's a little more obscure. I prefer to think, since it's in her handwriting, this was involved with just where she went immediately after having been transported away from the tea room and maybe dropped off at Sandy Heights, and this was left for one of the other members to come and pick her up at that time. Who knows? Here we have the antechamber entry controls. It tells you where all 8 levers are located, if you can read the fine print. The north lever is underground, and then also in the throne room, east lever in the Great Hall, greenhouse, south, and west lever in the secret garden. And the fine print at the very bottom tells you where the other levers are located. Grotto, I think you'd like it. It has tunnels. And might as well solve this the long way. Is that the right one? No, that's the fat way. Tunnel Simulator 2021, you got it. All right. We're making serious progress today. Alright, here's the foreman's office. That I almost passed this up the first time, and I've seen other people do it too, so I don't feel too bad. I couldn't see this, and I started backtracking, and fortunately my son was with me that day, and he's like, well, let's go look at that other thing again, and convinced me to come back over here and take a look, and I'm glad I did, because that's how we ended up solving it and getting to 46, but... Okay, so this is in between those other 2 logs, so this is May of 18, and yeah, so this is right in between the log about the boiler room being installed and the last one where they were sealing things up. So,
after almost 3 years in the tunnels, S&R's informed me they'll be closing up the site in June. It's been a somewhat bittersweet experience working on such an historically significant excavation over the past 30-odd months, yet being unable to share any of that work with the world. Maybe one day. Still, there's a significant amount of work that has to be done, and it's vitally important that we conclude our efforts in the main cavern and reinforce the structural integrity of the site before we seal the tunnels next month. It may be generations before they are reopened.
And so his words here, again, so he's talking about the historical significance, and he's talking about not being able to say anything. So number one, I think maybe they were bound by a confidentiality agreement, or just a general don't talk about our clients rule within the company. But then he's talking where he's talking about the historical significance in the other logs that we haven't seen yet. He's like freaking out over the fact that they find the black print down here of the Orinda Castle, or not their castle, but they find a black print of Orindia, and is freaking out about it and wants to close the place up immediately. And then, a year or so later, whatever the timeline is from between those 2 notes, he's like, this is a really significant place. I'm really glad I've been working here. So he clearly came around to the idea from what he was not a fan of when they first found the black print. Right. Well, almost. Actually, with a little bit of luck here, we may actually make it into 46 today. If not, we're opening up all sorts of things to make it easier on a future day. Fortunately, I can only get 1 handle. I do not have the boiler room yet. So, going down the little side hall does me no good at the moment. But we get the kick-ass music in the meantime. this music is gorgeous. Hawaii. Hi. Alright, we need to pick up the Mechanarium real fast. There's a complete map, including the number 10 scribbled very lightly over in the legend there, which is the buried floor plan that we dug up, the lost and found. And the X for it is, the number 10 for it is, if you look on the map, just where we saw it. You can only see it with the magnifying glass, but since I traded that in to make my burning glass, I can't show it. But it's there, trust me. And by the time this hits YouTube, I'll edit in an image of it. There is a fast, if you're just trying to get to 46, there is a way to solve this without having to raise the layer up. Still requires going through the minecart tunnel over here, but you don't have, it saves you some steps, and so there's a slightly faster way of doing it that you can do it for doing speed runs and such. Pull you out of the way forevermore. One thing that I never see, I see people like they come and go through their basement all the time. Great, but they leave that pallet like in the middle of the floor here, and so they keep dodging it day after day after day, and it just gets in the way and it's annoying. So I make it a habit of moving it out of the way so I don't have to keep tripping over the damn thing. Okay, so we need to go up to the greenhouse. That will immediately put us into the foundation anyway. Then we need to go out of the foundation, turn north, hopefully, and then see if we can find a way into the antechamber. Either secret garden key, a great hall, or in moment of great desperation, possibly I might be able to make... I mean, the door's open, so technically I could make the weight room work as well. Coat check is a bit out of the way, unless I connect through the antechamber and have a lot of steps to track down through the coat check, or whatever. But we'll see what happens here. All right. We're moving. Nothing I can buy that will help me out in from the commissary at this point. Okay. Security to gymnasium to pool. I don't have any upgrade discs to use. Okay, no. Alright. Smashy Smashy has been done. Lever underground has been pulled. Where's my Smashy Smashies? Smashies! There we go. Greenhouse. Done. And again, while we're here, we're reading the original Gardener's Logbook. So this is Denny Ravane. In February of 1990 was when he starts writing this. He's been with the family a little bit longer than that, because we know when the Blackbridge Grotto was being set up, when the servers were being moved, Denny was the one who helped move them from the freezer over to the Blackbridge Grotto, and he had a login at that time, so that was in 1986. And So at least as far back as 86, he was in good standing with the family. But by 1990, things had changed a bit. So this is the original gardener's logbook. This is a record of my many indiscretions and lapses of judgment. Should this logbook ever be found, know that my guilt is exceeded only by my failings. As the groundskeeper of a vast estate, it's my responsibility to ensure the property remains well maintained and beautiful all year round. From the many green rooms to the manner of the sprawling lawns, it's my duty to attend to every aspect of the grounds, ensuring they're orderly, presentable, and accessible so they may be appreciated by both guests and the family. That would be the day. This log, many years overdue, will serve as a record of some of my duties, discoveries, and contributions I've made to the estate over the many years I've served here as groundskeeper, and however many more are yet to come. Not many, apparently. February 25th, 1990. A few months ago, I made a truly remarkable discovery in my role of Mount Holly horticulturist. Through years of breeding and experimentation, I successfully created a new species of flower with a fruit that resembles a gemstone in every detail. Although the fruit is not edible, it's nevertheless a marvel of nature, possessing all the beauty and brilliance of a genuine jewel, but with the added benefit of being entirely organic. Despite the creation of this flower being my proudest accomplishment to date, my joy was slightly curbed when I was informed by Randolph Moore that my employer's company, Cinca, had decided to deny my request to announce my discovery to the public, completely disregarding my years of hard work and dedication to this project. This decision was absolute rubbish. I've poured my heart and soul into this project, investing countless hours of research and experimentation to create something truly extraordinary. I feel this flower has the potential to make a significant impact on the field of horticulture, and it feels like such a waste to keep a gem like this hidden away for, quote, further research. As I suspected, they wanted the flower to serve primarily as a cheap way to produce resources for special floor plans. Now, there's a gap here from February to October. There's a couple other notes that we've hit on a little bit in the past with the Hall note, etc., where between February and October, Denny has started trying to find room 46. He doesn't mention it here until, January, but by October, he's already looking and he's interested at least. Well, I had high hopes for this logbook, but I've struggled to find a reason to add another entry. My employer's decision earlier this year has left me feeling disheartened, and I find it difficult to find the motivation to continue in my work. I'm aware my disappointment is affecting my performance, and I'm reminded that daily when I see the houseplants slowly dying as I make my rounds. Perhaps I should quit. I really should have. Now, in January the next year, my ambition's been reignited. I overheard, perhaps with some prodding, that the employee contracts for the staff are kept within the Baron's private office on the 10th rank, a fact that I found quite remarkable, considering the house only has 9 ranks. This all but confirms the long-held suspicion that the rumored 46th room is in fact north of the antechamber, a suspicion I'd always considered too obvious to be plausible. And the note in the locker room that's in his handwriting shows all the different things he was trying, including the grotto, etc., and not having it. As much as I wish to abandon all pretense of caring about my job to focus on this new project, I fear I must resume my gardening duties for the sake of appearances. It has, after all, been a long time since the north side of the house has received the groundskeeper's undivided attention. Let's trim the hedges and see what we find. If there is a 10th rank, it's impossible to perceive its existence from the outside, which is true. So if it does exist, then I'm going to assume that reaching it can only be done through the antechamber. Sadly, security's only gotten tighter in the years after Mary's disappearance, and that room's no longer locked behind regular doors that can be opened by regular keys. So the antechamber levers and doors weren't put in until after Mary disappeared. Oh no, that would be too easy. Instead, the Baron had remote access levers installed in several different rooms of the house. Funny enough, I already know the location of 3 of the levers, as one was recently installed in the greenhouse, and another 2 were installed in the secret garden. It's almost like they were choosing green rooms just to tempt me. And here you can see, similar to what we just saw underground, he's got all the levers mapped out. He's already found, at this point, every lever except the ones that connect north. And no reason he would have found the throne room, obviously, but the one underground is the only other one that he's missing. So, I mean, he's done a pretty damn good job figuring out where the rest are, to be honest. Now, March of that year is where he makes his big discovery, and this kicks off the moonshine. Although these past few months of exploration have yet to yield the fruit I seek, I have, in that time, gained a much greater mastery of the estate and have stolen many glimpses behind the black curtain that veils her many secrets. Among the more exciting of my recent finds was the discovery of a hidden chamber in one of the outer rooms, sealed but shut behind a false wall. The stale quality of the air and unmistakable aroma of corroded metal led me to believe the chamber had remained sealed for many decades. Within it, I found a large vat and a copper still, their time-worn surfaces streaked with creeping veins of oxidation and rust. I'm unsure if the instruments can be restored to working condition, but if they can, I may yet find a use for the sugar beets and potato stores rotting away in the root cellar. So, obviously this is the trading post, and the still that's there, which, given the use of still water in solving that particular puzzle, there's every likelihood that that was sealed behind a false wall by Orave. Because there's not really a reason why anybody between her, when she died in, somewhere in the 50s and 60s, and it's been sealed for decades. So chances are it was sealed by her and then remained that way until Denny found it. And then when Denny's done with it, then he seals it all up again, and that's why it's there when we find it with the dynamite there. And I know there are people who theorize that Herbert may have also solved the still water thing and got into the atelier, but I'm not sold on that idea, and for various reasons that aren't really worth going into right now. But if he did, then he would have had to get access to the still water again, so we would have had to re-break it down, get access to still, and then reseal it up again, which, again, I just find it ridiculous that it would have been sealed and unsealed that many times as part of this whole thing. Anyway, at last, I finally discovered a location on one of the north levers. It's deep underground at a location so far removed of any of the estate's plant life that had I been discovered, I would have been completely vulnerable without any excuse but curiosity to offer my captor. As anxious as I was to pull it, I decided to wait until the Baron is away, as it reduces the risk of being caught significantly. Once he leaves, I don't think that a delay in returning will be too hard to engineer, now that Kristoff is under my thumb and beholden to do whatever I command. Kristoff being involved in the moonshine operation, which, since Denny is the mastermind behind it, if Denny cuts Kristoff off, that's a lot of money coming Kristoff's way that isn't there anymore. So that's why he's under his thumb and beholden to him, is because that's a lot of money that Kristoff's earning from it. August 15th, 1991. Well, no turning back now. After finally reaching the objective I'd been working toward for the last 4 months, I made an impulsive decision in the heat of the moment. It took more than just my contract. I found something that I knew could give me the chance to make back some of the money I felt was owed to me, and I grabbed the opportunity without really considering the consequences. Given that there's now only one missing file of the staff contracts, I have unwittingly left an incriminating trail leading directly back to me. My only hope is that they consider it too obvious to be plausible. I'm almost positive that I'm not going to get away with it, but at this point I feel I owe it to myself to get what's coming to me, one way or the other. That, of course, is where he snatched the red letters from room 46. And again, he stole 8 letters based on the ransom note that we see in room 46. One of the notes that we see is regarding number 8 is received after the fact, when the money's been exchanged hands, all the letters have been returned, and here's an extra red letter I know you weren't expecting to see, which means, what the hell happened to the original number 8? The original 8th letter? Because if number 8 that we see is from Denny, or not forever anonymously X, that means there was a different red letter that he stole as the 8th one. We have no idea. So either there was a third round of blackmail, and that was actually from someone else, not from Denny, which would be weird, or there's another red letter out there that we know absolutely nothing about. Okay, here we go. Pantry. Fine. It turned where I wanted to go. Alright, we need either the weight room or the Great Hall or a secret garden key. It keeps me going and potentially opens things, so for now I'm going to allow the kennel. And you never know when you need good luck from Peppers. Who needs pets? Who needs... Oh, you need pets. Who's a good puppy? Who's a good puppy? I'm a cat person, but I do like dogs. Okay, I don't have a silver key, so there was no harm in doing that. Alright, I need to go east. Or weight room. Son of a mother, let's go. Well, last ditch effort. Anybody got a secret garden key in here? Oh, that's nice, thank you. Secret garden key? That's Kiki. Got 1 and 3 words right. That's an orange, which might still be useful. If I wasn't dying on keys here and trying to get something done, I would open that one and show the note that I just referred to, that Denny was drafting lots of different options. Instead, I'm just going to put it up on the screen here for YouTube. And you just see some of the different things that he is looking for. Secret garden key? That's money. Secret garden key? That's still money. Okay. We need keys. Where's our keys? We don't, and our metal detector is not in effect, so we're on our own looking for them. Red. Here. All right, here we go. The car keys don't really help me here. Wrong kind of key, game. Secret garden key. Secret garden key. That's an apple. Extra delicious today, so not unhelpful, but not nearly as helpful as a secret garden key. And that's it. Frickin' hell. Alright, I forgot to read some room descriptions. We're going to hit these up really fast before we go. Locker room. This poolside locker room is, of course, not always poolside, but it is much more convenient for guests when it is, and much less annoying for the servant who must follow the dripping swimmer across the house searching for their locker. The blue tent for this one, get up to find the locker room. The blue tent for this one is that the memo next to this is a lie. So the oft-debated and agonized over Kirk Darren is a pseudonym note is lying, and it was just there to troll you the whole time. Next up, we did not read the kennel description. Home to several of Sinclair's hunting companions, it can be assumed these friendly hounds have been anxious to meet their new master, which I read when I was getting the room from the drafting studio, but not since I drafted it. And, of course, the blue tent memo for this is very important because then, in theory... Whoops, passed them all. You know what to call all of these lovely little puppers. Because the studio directory kennel blue room is Sinclair's 4 canine companions are named Carter, Thoughtless, Hot Sauce, and Drawbridge. And I believe many people have tried anagramming and finding something to do with those names. I don't think anyone's come up with anything definitive that I've seen. It's entirely possible I've missed something, though. So...
yeah. Let's see. I think everything else we have read about as appropriate. Library, chapel, drafting in the storeroom, kitchen. I think all of the rooms we've done, we have been in before, except I don't think I read the description on the workroom while we were there. So it's technically on the way back to where we're going. It's just a long way to go. Now, if this gives me a room that gives me the secret garden key, we will know the game is just absolutely, ultimately trying to troll me here. Because we're going for that last space.
Workshop. Springs, screws, and coils scattered atop the workbench show signs of this room's frequent use. A craftsman's studio dedicated to creativity and invention, this room was used by your uncle regularly whenever he needed to fix or improve a gadget or contraption. And the blue tent memo for the workshop is certain rooms, like mechanical rooms, are more likely to contain security doors. We did not. I read the description of the pool and the blue tent memo. We did. Okay, so that one's taken care of. I did not read the blue tent for the drafting studio while we're there. The blue tent memo for the drafting studio is the full directory is comprised of 46 numbered rooms plus 8 categories of 8 rooms. 46 plus invert diamond mathematical calculation for 46 means 64. 46 plus 64 is 110 rooms in the complete directory. Okay, we've done this, over to here, and here we go. What's it gonna do? What are we gonna do? Oh, it's locked. It doesn't matter. Never. Lockpick. Damn. Okay. All right. Problem solved. The house did not have a chance for one final troll. You know it would have, though. All right, calling it a day, and that is it for me for this evening. YouTube, thank you for being here. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the series so far and what your thoughts are on the game as a whole. And come back for the rest of the series, and I hope to see you around. And come catch a live show on Twitch. Monday nights is Blueprints night for me, usually starting at 10 p.m. Central. So thanks a lot, YouTube.